Hey, are you a baseball fan?
I like going to games.
But like you're not like a student of the history of baseball.
No, no. Apart from like Babe Ruth, I don't know any like legendary players or something.
Well, you've definitely. So I'm assuming you've definitely never heard of someone who wasn't very famous, Fred Merkel.
You know, I actually do know that name.
So I'm guessing you've heard the phrase Merkel's boner.
No, that I haven't heard.
Boner used to be a term for like mistake that people used that didn't have the context it has now, right? So if
hmm
you fucked up, that'd be called making a boner. So Merkel's boner is like considered one of like the biggest fuck ups in baseball history. The gist of it is, I believe it was for the Cubs. Uh, no, it was the New York Giants versus the Cubs in 1908. Can you believe that, Diego? It's over 100
Jesus.
years ago at this point. Um, the bases had runners on third and first. Batter comes up and hits a home run, and it's the for the World Series, and the game's over. Fred Merkel does not go to second base from first base because the fans stormed the field. It was a home run. Everyone's like, "Game's over." He didn't touch second base. So do you know what that means? That means if they get him out at second, it would have a domino effect and it would cause the Giants to lose the game.
Oh.
You have to round the bases. You can't not, even if you hit a home run, you still have to round the bases. You ever see those like pictures of like guys hitting the home run, the game's over, but the guy still runs and like has to push the fans storming the field out of the way so they can get the home plate?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Because it doesn't count if a player doubles up. So the player that hit the home run can't advance to second before Merkel does. So the Chicago Cubs got the ball and got back to second, and it was ruled a loss for the New York Giants, and it cost them the World Series. So like a simple mistake like that, caught like just one little thing like that cost them the whole game. So anyway, we're here to talk about Alien Romulus.
Something in the water.
What do you mean there's something
I
in the
don't know,
water?
there's just something in the fucking water.
That's my co-host Macaringo,
That's me.
and I'm Matt's co-host Diego Crespo.
Yeah,
We're
for the opening anyway.
yeah for really. No, I think we'll be okay by the end of this. I think we're here to talk about Alien Romulus. For the retrospective, the Alien franchise retrospective is the first like series retrospective we did. So it makes sense when we come back for this one.
I highly recommend not listening to those episodes because they're fucking 8 years old at this point.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I mean, like opinions have changed. You're angrier about them, and I am more optimistic about them.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, we've changed and evolved.
yeah. And I guess I hate some of the movies for different reasons that I hated them 8 years ago. So, yeah, we talked about the Alien movies and basically broke any interest I had in the Alien films. I think is the point I kind of have made.
It is funny that like we did Halloween. At the end of that, we were like just fucking exhausted, and then but we're also like, if another one comes out, like
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I saw fucking Halloween Ends in theaters and enjoyed
yeah.
it. Like,
And I didn't, and I regret it because I love that movie.
hmm And meanwhile, like everything about Alien has just been exhausting lately. But mainly because it was kind of like, because I think we ended on Covenant. We did the retrospective in the build up to Covenant coming out, and then we ended on Covenant, correct?
Yeah.
Which I think famously ended with me going, Ridley Scott, retire, bitch.
Yeah.
Um, which I stand by.
Well, technically, they forced him into retirement with the franchise.
I mean,
For the most
look,
part, he's
yeah,
definitely a producer on this one.
his fingerprints are in some very very obvious places that
Yeah.
are bad, frankly. So I stand by my point.
There's only one spot where I'm like, yeah, he totally is at least partially responsible for this decision, and I hate it.
The one thing that seems to have been good, and I haven't played it, but I sent it to you, is everyone seems very positive on the Alien Dark Descent RTT game.
Yeah, and I have been meaning to play that. I just haven't really had time to sit down and game. Although I am streaming Alien Isolation with a friend of the show, and I mean, also like he helps edit and he comes on the show now. He's basically another co-host, Max Deering.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that, or you can go back and look at those streams when this episode is up because this will be coming out later.
But yeah, like that seems to be people seem to really like it. It's weird. Two Marvel products have put out strategy games that had oddly like people were like, this sounds dumb, and then they came out and people really liked it. The other being Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yeah, what is that? I don't even know what that is.
It's a strategy game. It's another tactical game, and I believe it uses like it's like, you know, the Midnight Suns, which are like people like Blade and Doctor Strange and shit like that. I don't know who actually appears in the game. According to Wikipedia, it's includes the Midnight Suns, members of the Avengers, X-Men, and Runaways, and it's a strategy game for superheroes, which sounds like a great idea to me, frankly. Oh hey, Michael J. White voices Blade in the game.
That's awesome.
Who should have been Blade like 20 years ago. But,
yeah. Well, that's the beauty of animation. You can just kind of do whatever.
So here's the list of playable characters in the game, just for anyone interested. Blade, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Deadpool through DLC, so you don't have to play as Deadpool. Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, the Hulk, the Hunter, who I'm not familiar with, Iron Man, Magic, Morbius, Nico Minamura, one of the Runaways, okay. Sister Grimm, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Storm, Venom, and Wolverine. So
that is a wild lineup of characters.
The game received generally positive reviews from, but what is a commercial flop. But like, look, people I know that like love video games love that game. Like guys who are like don't give a fuck about Marvel like that game. So it's been on my list. I feel like that was just a bad marketing thing. Like they didn't know how to sell the game. And I mean, kind of Alien that fucking what do you call it?
Dark Descent.
Dark Descent, but Isolation had a similar problem where like they didn't really know how to market it. Like,
yeah,
they released it way too close to Colonial Marines, which had such a stink on it that I think no one wanted to touch an Alien product for a long time.
Yeah. And now it's like, especially with Alien Romulus hype happening around the world, like people are really like going back and like they're talking it up, like Alien Isolation, like I'm not built for this. Like this game's fucking scary, which is very funny to me because like we talked about it with all the Alien stuff back in the day, but like as a former scaredy cat of cinema, horror cinema, Alien never really like terrified me. Like it's creepy and gross, but it never gave me like a full on like nightmare feel type shit. Although Alien Isolation is very thrilling. This is nothing against that. It's just for me, it was definitely my gateway to this stuff. So it's very interesting to see everyone else be like, yeah, I couldn't finish that game because I was too fucking scared.
Yeah,
so that makes me happy.
Can I be frank? I've never found Isolation to be that scary.
It's very thrilling and tense.
It's very it's tense. It's very engaging and it's very challenging. But scary is not the word I would use for it. But I was thinking about that watching Romulus, which is that the franchise hasn't really been scary for a long time. It just started being upsetting starting with 3, right? Like,
yeah, which I love, but definitely not scary as a movie.
Yeah, which I find interesting that they've kind of just given up on being scary.
Well, I think after 3, they just kind of, even Resurrection, like a movie people are still very mixed on. I think there's much more critical reevaluation lately. Like it is just like science fiction stuff with horror elements in it. Like not like even the most upsetting stuff in Resurrection with the newborn is like they kind of have to throw that in there because it's like the xenomorph's not really scary. Although I will say that movie does a better job than I remember making those creatures still vicious. Like, they're still shooting them and shit, like in Aliens, but like when the xenomorphs are on screen, like someone always dies in those movies. I'm like, okay, that's like, they understand that, you know, you can't just have them pop up for a scare. It's like they pop up, they have to like wipe someone out.
You say that as a positive?
I say that as a positive for what that movie is going for and for the standards of those movies at that time. You asked me earlier this year what I want out of the Alien franchise, and I gave a pretty basic rundown of like, I want it to be tense, thrilling. It has to be like a roller coaster ride. And here's where I say, I'm just gonna lay it all on the table. Alien Romulus delivered on all of that in spades, and I realized that's not nearly enough for me.
Yeah,
that is nowhere near enough.
I'm not even gonna take it because like I've had that moment where I'd be like, this is what I want from this movie, and then I got it, and then I went, no.
Yeah, my bad, everyone.
Yeah, you know what the king movie of that is? Is the Watchmen movie.
Oh.
Where like the Watchmen movie has to look like this, it has to feel like this, it's got to be this. I was like, all the trailers are hitting all the notes. I saw it, it was what I wanted, and it turned out I didn't actually want that. Like, I think every nerd has to have that moment of getting what we want and realizing that's not actually what we want.
Yeah, this is me for the Alien franchise.
I guess that does happen with a lot of nerds, but nerds aren't very self-reflective, so instead they start looking for an evil woman in the background who's responsible for it. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, there are women in this cast, so maybe I should just make a hard pivot into grifter culture.
Oh no, Kathleen Kennedy, she had her hand in this. She was in the office on the same day they were doing a script meeting about Alien Romulus.
That motherfucker. No.
She got her woke tendrils into the script because that's what's going wrong.
We're not even gonna unmantle Star Wars today. There's so much stupid fucking shit. I'm so mad. I like the Acolyte. I'm so bummed.
Yeah, it sucks. Star Wars is gonna be boring for the foreseeable future, and it looks like Alien as well. All right, I'm going to lay my cards down. This is the worst movie I've paid money to see in theaters this year. I kind of hated it. But I also didn't hate it in the way, like, where I came... Like Covenant, like, made me feel awful as a human being coming out of it. But, like, I didn't get that. And I'm not getting any... Like movies that I genuinely hate are something like Jurassic World, where I'm like, the movie was bad, and also I think it's like an insult to life itself, you know? That it contains a certain level of cynicism and hatred that I just brush up against. I'll give Romulus that's not present in this movie.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
That I didn't get that. I still would probably rank it lower than Covenant, obviously, though, which is kind of shocking for me to even say, considering like how much of a bad taste that. But like that movie at least puts something in me. Like I feel something coming out of Covenant, and I'll say Romulus did make me appreciate elements that I don't think work in Prometheus or Romulus, but I can at least see the idea of that stuff better now, having seen Romulus.
You mean Prometheus and Covenant?
Prometheus and Covenant, sorry. Romulus helped me see some of the stuff in a better light than I had. Now, I don't like how they're done in those movies because it doesn't really change my problems with them, but it made me go, okay, those were things at least worth doing, which was kind of my debate about them, where part of me was like, I'm not even sure if this was worth doing, whereas Romulus was like, no, it was if the other option was Romulus.
I will say, I did enjoy the movie, like, for the most part by the end. So I made the stupid mistake. You can go listen to the other podcast I did with much smarter people than Matt and I. Gene, Max, and film critic Richard Newby, great pal of the show. Always read his work. They were all much bigger fans of it than I was. But I did have a good time watching. I think it is like a crowd pleaser, and clearly it worked because it got a lot of people into this franchise that I know personally now. I have friends borrowing my Alien Quadrilogy box set to watch Alien 3 in the proper version and stuff now. I have friends texting me like, hey, could I just start with Prometheus and Covenant? And I'm like, maybe don't, or maybe you should, because if you like can vibe with those, then you're gonna be down for whatever the franchise throws at you.
Yeah, no, don't start with them. Don't. I'm not even saying that as like a dislike. Like you need to let the first. If you've never seen the first Alien, you need to let that movie sit with you for a little bit before you engage with Prometheus and Covenant. Like,
and you're not even saying that like as a hater. You're just like,
I'm not even saying
that should be the thing.
Yeah, well, it's also just like I want people to be able to say what's in the text of Alien, as opposed to giving credit to things that are already in the text of Alien to Prometheus. So.
Which is, I mean, that's also kind of happening with Alien Romulus. You had a very good Twitter thread about like people responding to this movie, like, oh, they're giving it a hard time despite like the fan service member berry stuff, which I was very disappointed by, and people are ignoring like the text of the film, which is like anti-capitalist. These kids just trying to survive, and you, I think, rightfully called out that the film. And cinema in general, you made it very clear you weren't just laying this at the feet of Romulus. It's just a talking point right now. And you've talked about it to me too. Like most stuff is just not pro capitalism right now, and no one is pro exploitating workers right now. Say that you are, you're gonna get a very bad response.
Yeah, there's the fringe libertarian that is like that, right? Like, there's the fringe libertarian who's genuinely that crazy. And is probably really upset with the anti-capitalist message of Romulus. The people that would be upset though don't watch movies because they don't have souls. Like they can't enjoy things.
No, like if JD Vance saw this movie, he'd be like, I don't understand. Like they have a place to live, they're working. You know, like that's a guy who would genuinely not be able to comprehend stuff. But yeah, like no one sees the circumstances of this movie and is like, well, you know, it's debatable. Like, no, it's a planet without sun. No one disagrees with what these kids are doing to escape it.
The late, great android David was trying to help. Was trying to make something. I could see that. I mean, J.D. Vance would love the Alien because it's, like, reproducing constantly.
Oh.
I'm just saying, like, that's...
No, I mean, you're right. It's just, like, such a gross, like, sentiment for that.
God, what a fucking guy they fucking found.
I know. Oh my god, it's so awesome. It's so stupid. They're gonna get fucking wiped out. That makes me happy.
I hope they're trying really hard. It's really a sad thing of like we kind of just have to be like, Kamala, don't fuck this up. like that's
I know
really where we're at. Like I'm just being like, just let them call you a communist. The fucking crazy QAnon guy has a giant, I don't know where he got this. He got a giant stop sign and nailed it to the side of his barn. And then it says stop communism. And it's got Kamala's name with the sickle and hammer.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a guy who really understands economics. So...
Interesting fella.
Yeah, interesting people. This really is an election about can you crazy your way into the White House, right? Like, if you embrace every crazy fucking thing on the planet, can you game the system into getting into the White House?
And the answer might be yes.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Anyway, I was making a point that it's just, I mean, look, like anything I said about that, you can apply to Aliens as well. I think you can apply it to all the work of James Cameron, right? That we kind of water down these ideas, and it's not there's nothing inherently wrong with that, right? There's nothing of just being like, I mean, like we do cinematic short. This is one that like actually annoyed me going the opposite direction of people like over reading something for a negative. But remember when Last Jedi came out and they free the animals in it, and when they escape the casino, and I remember someone being like, "Why are they like working in some like bullshit like animal like rights stuff into this movie? Like, what is that? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, this is just like, if you want to make a guy look evil really quickly, you have them mean to an animal. Like, that's cinematic shorthand. It's an entirely, it's a thing we do all the time. That movie wasn't trying to get one over on you with it. Like,
yeah.
it wasn't trying to trick you. It was that's just the text. That's what you do in a movie. Like, so yeah, and like I kind of yeah, I had that with Alien Robinson. Just it feels like we're watering down what we call anti-capitalist in terms of how we discuss movies these days. Because I mean, it's still Weyland-Yutani runs everything in this, right? Or was the initial colony run by something different? I couldn't
No,
find
it's
out.
all Weyland-Yutani.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like, you don't give a shit about the alien lore, and I totally get it, but like in the franchise, because Alien Isolation is canonical, and we also had a good conversation on the other podcast I did where it's author Alex White, who has written 2 books in the Alien franchise, had this great note about, like, you know, everything's canon until it isn't. And then canon matters until it doesn't, and it doesn't matter until it does. Basically, the movies come first. If it's not in the movie, it's not real until someone makes it a plot point, basically.
I agree, and I would even take that further of being like, the canon only matters to the movie you're actually watching.
I would agree with that as well.
Like,
this isn't fucking, you know, some ongoing, like, epic legacy. I like these movies because of the individual voices. That's what I've really realized.
Yeah.
Along with some other stuff we'll get into, but the point I wanted to make with that is, like, Alien Isolation brings in this concept of, like, well, the Seegson Corporation, you know, they got this great motto, like, tomorrow together and stuff like that. And it's like, that's not Weyland-Yutani, but they're trying to keep up with the business practices of Weyland-Yutani. And how do they do that? Oh, they find the derelict spaceship from Alien before Weyland-Yutani starts a shake and bake colony on it. Oh, they could take advantage of this. Obviously, it goes horribly wrong. But it's like, okay, that's different, you know? It's not... Because at this point, if it's just one corporation holding it in the future, like, that, obviously, this isn't pro, like, a capitalism statement, but it's like, okay, at that point, it's just like, is that like capitalist oligarchy? You know,
Yeah,
like,
and
I think that's different vibe. Also evil.
Yeah,
but,
it gets a little too simplistic when it's just one corporation, in my opinion. Like, I get it. Like,
I would agree. Yeah.
We live in a world where 5 corporations own everything, but like you could do a little more there if you're gonna do that. Like, but Weyland-Yutani was like comically evil in this, where like the girl's like, I have enough time saved up to leave the planet, and then it's like, nope, I'm gonna double it literally right in front of you, and it's like, why? It's like, because I said so. Right? That's the rules. And I'm like, not saying a corporation wouldn't do that, but it's also wasn't the most engaging of setups, if you ask me.
No.
Well, my cat is gonna be crying right into the microphone. I apologize.
That's okay. The cat just liked the movie as well.
What was I gonna say? This section, I think it's in one of the Leprechaun sequels.
Oh my god.
I apologize. Where I think a character goes to a casino, and it's been one of these like little details that irked me more than it should, because it's a fucking Leprechaun sequel. But it's a narrative choice that bugs me. And they bet on roulette, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. And the dealer hits a button under the table, and it makes sure it doesn't go into the winning number, right? It's legit rigged. And I'm like, the thing about a casino is it's already rigged. Like, it's everything in a casino is already stacked in favor of the house. Why are you doing this like extra thing, you know? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's sometimes about capitalist messages in these movies, where like they kind of go like, look, the system is already bad. You don't need to do the comically evil stuff on top of it to make it work. Right.
Yeah, I mean, we used to see this like in a lot of rom-coms, like which is going to be an insane pull, but it's like, oh, like the bad boss. You just need to have the good boss at this company to make everything better, right? And then that's a very like whatever, like some comfort food movies can pull that off, whatever, right? Like I don't need every movie to solve the world crises around us. It's not going to happen. But if you're making a movie with headier ideas, allegedly, like you do want more complicated, like thematic stuff. Or like political stuff, you know.
Yeah, or just it like. I don't like the movie trying to have its cake and eat it too. If it wants to be like a down the middle monster movie, do that, but then dump all the other shit. Like, you don't need all this. Like, oh, it just felt kind of unnecessary and kind of trite, and it also has the problem I've pointed out, which is it's not an inherent problem in a movie, but it's something that I've noticed where I call them Pixar plots, which is the moment the conflict is introduced, you know how it's going to be resolved, right? Like, you know what's going to happen. Alien has a little bit of wiggle room because this is a movie where it could end where it looks like everything works and then everyone still dies, right? Like, that could still happen in an Alien movie. I got the sense that wouldn't happen here because this is a crowd pleaser, and to end it that way would really upset people. But it's one where you know how it's gonna go, right? Like, you just know what's gonna happen. And
there is not a single moment in this movie that I didn't like expect or anticipate.
Yeah,
and that's not even going to the Ash thing. It's just like, yeah, we're gonna do that because we hit that beat before, and that and that and that, and that was a little disappointing. Versus a great film like Trap by M. Night Shyamalan, where I was genuinely like, I don't know what the fuck's about to happen in the next 5 minutes. Which was great.
M. Night has gotten really good at weaponizing the fact that sometimes he writes things that don't make sense. Like, he's managed to tease suspense out of that, right? Like, he's managed to, when you watch an M. Night movie, this isn't a criticism, by the way. It's when you watch an M. Night movie, you're like, is M. Night doing something really stupid right here? And then it doesn't end up mattering because he manages to get suspense and engagement out of it, you know? So Trap's a ton of fun. Everyone go see Trap instead. Did that bomb? Like, does it kind of feels like it got wedged between Deadpool and now Romulus?
Yeah, it wasn't the best time to release it. It made its budget back. It did the double budget thing. Okay. So it's $63.9 million for a $30 million budget. It's like that's acceptable.
That's all that matters. He'll get another movie.
Yeah. It's also the first one he didn't self-finance in like a decade. So it's like, if that's like the one, I think it's acceptable.
Blinding Edge Pictures. Oh, that's his company. I didn't know that was the name of M. Night's production company.
I did not either.
Yeah, he's already got another movie lined up. So
that's so great. That's so cool. Great. Even because it's not my favorite Shyamalan movie, Trap, by any stretch of the imagination, but I had such a great fucking time.
Trap is a really good. Just M. Night being like, I can still do this, like, and not that he had to prove himself, but in a just his last few movies, especially like Old and Knock at the Cabin, had kind of a bigger sell to them, right, in terms of the setup. Whereas Trap is just like, this is a pretty simple setup for a movie, and I'm gonna M. Night Shyamalan it, right? So, in very stark contrast to Alien Romulus, but. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that stopped me from fully being able to embrace it as a movie. The main reason is obviously the AI Ian Holm. Like, I'm not gonna fucking beat around the bush. Like, that's just fucking irredeemable. We'll get there.
We'll get to him. Yeah.
I did think it was a little like simplistic, the setup with the company stuff that you brought up too. But like, I was willing to roll with that. I kind of wanted to meet this cast of characters because like. With they're really pushing this movie. They either really believed in it or really realized, hey, we need another franchise from this Fox shit. Otherwise, we bought all this stuff and didn't make any money off of it.
I'm gonna say it was the latter, frankly.
Yeah. But I guess internally they were pretty happy with the movie, which is whatever. It doesn't matter to me. But like the cast going around in these interviews, like obviously as I was hoping to be more excited about the movie, I was like, man, this cast is like really fun to interact with. Like. They're looking like they're having a good time, and that makes me want to have a good time with them when I see the movie, And as like the movie starts, it's like, okay, you get the setup of Andy, my favorite character of all time in movies, and Rain, and I'm like, okay, so it's about these brothers and sister thing. Okay, they talked about the big sibling angle in this movie. All right, can't wait to meet these other guys. And I'm like, well, I don't really know anything about Rain. She just wants to leave, but okay, well, I'm sure the movie will get there eventually. And then we meet the other characters. Like, we got this idea. Oh, that guy with the bandana like really hates androids. The bald lady is a little stubborn, but like and hard-edged. Oh, then you got the sweet girl, Dora the Explorer. Oh, and then you got the guy who's like clearly the charming one and like the leader of the group. And I was like, we're going? Okay. I guess that's that's all we got. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really overly stuffed movie where it just doesn't give time to anything really. in a franchise that is usually known for at least having patience, like arguably sometimes to a detriment. Like these are usually movies that are good at like the slow build, and that's completely absent here. Which I would probably be more chill with if what they delivered on was more exciting than what we got.
Yeah, like I almost like you can feel that this version would have worked had the characterizations been stronger. And I think that's because Fede Alvarez, a guy I realize I am genuinely like a fan of, even though I don't really love anything of his outside of Don't Breathe.
He seems like a nice guy in interviews.
Yeah, and I believe him completely that he is genuinely a fan of every movie in this franchise.
No,
because there's too much weird nerd shit that is just
here. That's the problem, though.
It might be. Yeah,
he wanted to do everything that was in the franchise, like in one movie, and it's just like, I mean, look, a lot of people are making Force Awakens comparisons. I am making Rise of Skywalker comparisons.
I know that, which is bold
because I'm a cheeky little devil. But I've always referred to Force Awakens as a greatest hits album of Star Wars, right? Like, and my whole point is like I'm cool with that with Force Awakens because Star Wars kind of needed that at that moment, right? Star Wars needed someone to come in and be like, remember when this franchise was awesome? Remember when it was fun? Remember when it was like basic? Remember when it wasn't all this lore shit, right? Like it's, and I'm not. This isn't me trying to be like the prequels suck. It's more just a lot of people tapped out at the prequels, right? Like a lot of people were like, I'm not going there. And then if you feel pressured to have to know what happened in those movies, it's harder to get into the subsequent films, right? Like, I think someone felt like Alien needed that in response to Prometheus and Covenant, which added a ton to the lore. And I do not agree. I think they needed to take a bigger chance with this movie. They needed to do something new with it. And I think the mistake Prometheus and Covenant make is the lore stuff. I think it's not because it's bad lore, it's just too much and it's too wordy and too kind of like boring. And it adds too much to an already kind of perfect organism that is Alien, and it's like that stuff just isn't interesting to me. But those movies fundamentally hit a lot of the same beats as the other Alien movies, and that's where they're running into the problem. Is that you have to have an egg hatch, you have to have a facehugger get on someone, you have to have it grow in someone, you have to have it burst out, you have to have an evil android in there somewhere that's secretly pulling the strings, right? You have to have these beats of discovery that each character goes through because they have not seen the previous films, right? Like, they didn't get to watch them, so they don't know what's happening. We've seen all the previous films, so we know what's happening, and that can affect our excitement level at seeing, oh, it's the scene where the facehuggers chase them, kind of like in Aliens, but there's more of them this time. Like, someone needs to really pull back if this is going to be a franchise and start thinking about like what can we actually do differently with this that isn't aesthetic and that isn't numbers, right? Like, and that is the thing that they have failed to do post Aliens, in my opinion.
No, and I think that's completely accurate. Go ahead and finish your point, but like I want to hop in there for a second.
That's basically it.
Well, like I mean, even with Aliens, which is often like called and recently derided a lot more online as like Alien but bigger and more, and I've heard like dumber and stuff like that. And I would disagree. It's got too much going on, even though it is like a simple James Cameron like narrative. Like that movie does have a lot going on.
Here's the thing,
but even.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was getting too worked up.
Well, just like even like the facehugger stuff, they know not to just do the egg scene again. They do a facehugger sequence, which is like really remarkably directed. Like, oh my god, look at how they did that in the making of and shit like that. But it's like even they knew like, okay, well, this audience coming back, they know the egg thing, right? And that is the benefit of having like a main character or main like group of protagonists in a franchise. They don't have to repeat the beats. When you have Prometheus and Covenant, which have a new status quo every time, and Alien Romulus, you kind of have to have that moment because it's like this could be someone's introduction to the franchise, and then ultimately I remember like, well, Aliens is a lot of people's introduction to the franchise. Alien Resurrection, catching that a little bit, was my introduction to the franchise. I know what the fuck I was seeing, right? But it's like ultimately it doesn't matter because like a good movie will be a good introduction to the franchise for people. You don't have to like spell it out every time. And there I do agree with you completely.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is kind of interesting in that it is kind of weird where Alien is a franchise where, save maybe Covenant, I'm not sure, you could kind of start with any one of the movies, right? Like, you could theoretically start with any of them, you know?
If someone, I want to meet the person that started with Alien 3. I truly do.
If it was on cable one day and you were just, you kind of just came in like 20 minutes in, you started with it, right? Someone that was one of the best movies I ever saw. Like, it's, and I'm talking about the theatrical cut. And,
yeah.
I mean, I started with Aliens. Like, my dad showed me Aliens first, right? And so it is interesting. I think Aliens also works because it is a bigger version of Alien. But to be fair, that hadn't been done at that point in the franchise.
Yeah.
So that was kind of relatively new at the moment. And you talk about the Ripley thing of like Ripley being because she's been in the previous movies, but there's usually a new cast that has to be introduced each time that does have to be caught up to speed. I think, I think that it's not, for some reason, it's not as much a problem in Aliens. But it's more of a problem, I think, in Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection in terms of we have to be reintroduced to the alien in those movies again, right?
Well, I know you haven't seen Resurrection in a while, but to go for Alien 3 and Resurrection, at least Alien 3 has the, like, in both versions of the movie, you have the prisoners talking like, oh, like this cow died or whatever, right? Or the dog's been barking a lot. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, well, we're going to head to the funeral thing in a second. Oh, what's this? And they pull up that giant face hugger, right? And immediately the audience is supposed to know what it is. So, like, they move past it without having, like, a sequence with a face hugger in that movie. And Alien Resurrection, it's like the new characters get introduced to that. But, like, the face hugging itself, it's like, it's like a by-the-numbers, like, operation. Like, and like, I mean, physically, like, in that operation in space, that discrete Black Ops operation they got going on or whatever, it's like, yeah, we got the guys in cryo sleep. Just put them over here. They got okay, they're the face huggers. All right, now we can start the weird, like, mad science shit. And it's like, oh, like, they just, yeah, like, it's almost like a joke in that movie how simple
here's
that is.
Here's a question. This is the 9th Alien film. Correct?
If you count the AVPs, yeah. And okay. I don't care if someone does or doesn't. So, yeah, sure. 7th or 9th.
Here's a question. Has anyone been attacked by a face hugger and not had something burst out of them?
You know what? In Aliens, Ripley and
Newt. They fight it. They don't get it on them, though. Like, is anyone, like, once the face hugger is on them, has anyone been, like, there's the guy in Resurrections or whatever who, like, they're trying to get him somewhere before it happens. Like, there's, like
oh, yeah.
But they don't succeed. But has anyone ever successfully been, like, we did get them to cryo sleep and then got it out of them later?
No.
Well, and there's your problem right there. Like, we know what's gonna happen. Like, it's there's, and Romulus, I guess, to a positive is that it does the fucking facehugger thing in like 5 minutes. Like it's like facehugger on them, facehugger off, alien burst. Like it's a lot quick. It's probably the quickest it's been since AVP, right? Like it's so I guess it was like it kind of understood like let's just get through this, but it's a script is an economy. A movie is an economy of time. Like it's you still have to devote time to something where we all know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't it be kind of interesting if they got it out of her, and she lives, and they think the thing is dead, but then there's kind of now like a half-formed one running around that didn't get a chance to fully form, but it's also still it got enough to live, right?
Oh, yeah. That could be something.
Wouldn't that be a little, mix it up a little bit, instead of not at all? But,
yeah.
Just say, so I think that is a problem these films are hitting of just they have to, they feel obligated. Actually, it's not even an obligation thing. It's what the movies are. You have to hit certain beats, right? And because it's just to make them start, just to get the car running, like Aliens kind of works by skipping a lot of that and just starting with there's a bunch of aliens there, like, and we're gonna go find them, right? And it was why James Cameron correctly, in my opinion, cut the sequence on the colony in the theatrical cut of Aliens, right? Like even that brief,
I completely agree.
Even that brief moment was a little too much, and so it's just something I'm running into with these movies, and I think this applies to both Prometheus and Covenant. I think have similar problems. They try to mix it up, but it's more of a like we moved it. It's more like moving it around a little bit, in my opinion, of just like we're gonna do this moment here instead of here, and it's like yeah, but you're still doing that moment, and it feels a little too familiar, and I don't think anyone really has the vision to take it somewhere. And maybe Ridley Scott did with Prometheus. Maybe Prometheus is going to go down as like the Phantom Menace for me, of being like, oh, he had a lot of really interesting ideas here, and then lost his nerve going forward, and then felt obligated to make it fit more into what other people expected.
I think he really wanted, or at least Ridley saw the ambition that was kind of gonna go away from the franchise. Because as much as I love like 3 and Resurrection, 3 is an endpoint. Resurrection is a meta commentary movie. Now it's more than that also, but it is a meta commentary about like, no, we literally can't let Sigourney Weaver go. We can't let Ellen Ripley die. And it's like, but now it's a different person, and it's like whole body autonomy stuff that I find so fascinating in these stories. And I think he did not like that it was just about one person. He's like, there's all these questions of the universe, and I want to tackle them. Now, you can debate how successful he was at them, but I that's what I love about Prometheus, the ambition.
I have to point out that you accurately read those movies as Ridley Scott not caring about female bodily autonomy. Which is in the text of Covenant.
Yeah.
Which maybe hints at my problem with those movies a little bit.
Look, but there I will give him credit. There is a moment in Prometheus with the C-section scene, right? That machine is calibrated only for men. She has to calibrate it for herself, like to take the growth out of her, right? And that's because it's actually been a machine for Mr. Whale and yada yada yada, set a payoff. That's something.
Have I made the point that that's the moment that the movie lost me when I first saw it?
Yes, yeah. Okay, Joe Russo over here.
I'm just saying, it really is. Like, it was just, and it really isn't that scene. I keep saying, like, it's not the actual meat of the scene. It's just there's sometimes when something happens in a movie where you just realize you haven't been enjoying it, like, and that was kind of that moment for me. I like to bring up another movie. I think another time that happened was Spider-Man No Way Home, where that seemed to happen like 17 times. Like, where I was like, I'll start liking it once it gets to this part. And then it got to that part, and I'm like, I'm not liking this. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Oh
but
boy, do I remember that.
yeah, bad movie.
Which you are correct about, by the way.
Mm-hmm. So,
Um,
I will say there's one thing you are very wrong about in terms of what you thought I would think about this movie.
that you would hate it? Because I texted you that after my first showing.
No, well, yeah, we were texting back and forth, and I kind of hinted, like, well, if the movie does this, we're going to have problems. And you're like, you're going to hate it. So, I was like, yep. All right, here's gonna fucking open this one. I don't like Andy.
All right. Well, this has been a great podcast, but
actor,
it's time to stop.
Actor gives a very good performance. Although it is kind of incredible that no one has given as good an android performance in this franchise as Ian Holm in the first one. He's the only one that seems to have gotten the assignment.
I completely disagree. But
Lance Hendrickson is really good in Aliens, but that's also like a different character. Part of it is that we don't know Ash is an android, an alien. And I think people should maybe play the androids that way. In literally, you can spend an entire voyage with someone and not realize they're an android, and maybe that's how the androids behave. Maybe that's actually interesting instead of playing them like boring assholes. And,
well,
Andy does not start as a boring asshole. Andy starts. I'm trying to think of a delicate way to really say this.
I've heard criticism of this, and I am not in a place to disagree with it. I
just
want to make that clear.
Yeah, it's a why is this okay here just because he's a robot, right? Like, why is it okay to have a character that essentially has learning disabilities in a movie, and then it's like, well, it's an android, so it's different, right? And at least there wasn't like he has autistic superpowers moment. Like, they literally had to like put another mind in his mind to get him to start acting, different. So at least it wasn't like Rain Man or something, like, which is where I was worried it was gonna go. But yeah, I was kind of just I wasn't like super uncomfortable, but I was kind of like, why is this okay here, right? Like, why is this? Why we doing this? And yeah, it just kind of felt tired. I don't think they can do the android things very well in these movies. They feel they're more out of a sense of obligation, and yeah, I just think like it's just so weird that Ian Holm was so locked in with the first one, and then like everyone's like, well, we're not gonna do that ever again. Like, we're never going to give it that android performance ever again, including the CGI Ian Holm fucking monstrosity that pops up in this thing.
All right. Well, I got to say, I disagree that I think the android performances are almost consistently the best parts of each movie, frankly. And, like, the one android character that doesn't like play it like an android from the jump is Winona Ryder in Resurrection, and she also has a late game reveal. It's just a good one.
She's the second best one.
That's a bold statement. I'm so glad you said it, though.
I'll give it that. I think that the problems I have more there are Joss Whedon's weird monster fragile waif love thing that he does, like which is a little the Whedonisms of that movie kind of creep in a little too often.
I know. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's undeniable some stuff there.
And then Lance Hendrickson's great because he's just a worker, right? Like, like, you put him in any movie, he does the job, right? Like, he's gonna give a committed performance in Aliens. He's gonna give a committed performance in fucking Pumpkinhead. Like, that's just who he is.
For his one scene in Alien 3 when he has two scenes in Alien 3.
Yeah, he has two scenes in Alien 3 as two different characters.
And he's great in both. You
Yeah.
feel for him when he's just like, please, like, unplug me. Like, it's not going to go back to the way it was. Like, sorry, but you're on your own here. Like, it's genuinely, like, sad. And when you see him again, like, you want to believe so bad. It's like, fuck, please be one of the good ones.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, that's not where this story's going.
Mm-hmm. I do like that he, that is one of the cooler things in Alien 3 is that, like, he genuinely feels bad about what he did. Like, which they don't take advantage of enough, in my opinion, in these movies. But then who else is there?
Michael Fassbender.
I was trying to think of someone else that I could rank above Michael Fassbender.
No, that's it.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender's David, who has less charm than a date rapist. But,
oh shit! Okay, well, I mean, that is kind of the point, though.
No, but that's why those movies don't fucking work. Like,
you think you think the one mode they operate in is not enough, right?
Yes, there's
Can that be said?
There's that, and I specifically think David is like the worst example of it, especially considering what David is expected to carry in Prometheus and Covenant in terms of his narrative function in it. I think that it's a total mistake to characterize and frame him the way they do. And I think that is one of the big albatrosses on movies I already don't really care for. And so it's like, that's one of those things where, like, it is a, like, although here's something I will, here's how botched Romulus does it. I would have rather David shown up in the position CGI Ian Holm is in this movie than CGI Ian Holm. Like, as someone who hates David with a passion, I would have rather seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And at least he also dies in the end of this, but like, so that would have helped. But yeah, I think he would have made more sense. Like, it really does feel like they wrote it for David, and then Ridley Scott was like, let's do creepy CGI Ian Holm face because I like technology for some reason.
All right, so I actually have I have notes about this because that was the rumor that he was going to pop up. I didn't realize it was going to be more than the cameo.
Yeah,
which was already bad enough that he's in the movie as basically the antagonist for the middle act.
I mean, my joke.
Jesus
review,
Christ.
My joke. I wrote on Letterboxd that, like, I said at least Ian McDiarmid was still alive for Rise of Skywalker. But my joke review was going to be in all caps, Palpatine's behind it all, because it's the same bullshit. Like, it's.
I have some notes I have to run down for you because this is where I mean, we're not really in disagreement about Romulus. I just enjoyed the stuff that I thought worked a lot more, and everything I hate is completely on the same wavelength.
I will get to some stuff that I did like. I will get to some stuff. So.
Yeah, I will too. You're wrong about Andy, even though the criticism itself is not wrong. He's just the best character I've ever seen. But the Ash thing, supporting character, that's the death knell of the movie. There's no coming back from that. That is where I can't ever really endorse the movie. I saw this movie 3 times. I brought this up in the other podcast too. But first one, I got invited by a friend who we became friends basically because of our love of Alien 3, and when this moment happened in that theater, it was mostly critics, right? I felt the air leave the room, where everyone was like, "Oh shit! Like, this might be a bad movie." And then I saw it again at a public theater at the Alamo, so it's always hard to see like what works, what doesn't, because they're like no talking and stuff, right? Third showing, that moment doesn't really hit anyone. Just a friend of mine was like, "Wasn't he in the first one?" And I was like, "Yeah." But the rest of the movie played like gangbusters in public, so I that one's harder to gauge. Everyone unanimously is like, why couldn't it have been another android? I saw people say, like, if it was David, I would have given the movie 5 stars. And even I'm like, I don't know about that. It would have been something. And every other actor who's played an android in the series that we just ran down is still alive.
Yes.
So, what the fuck? Also, Ash is like an infiltration android, because they don't know he's an android. So if you have multiple versions of an infiltration android, you wouldn't have 28 James Bonds. You know what I mean?
I think that's a mistake all these movies made, is that they started doing a thing where it's like, oh, it's the same android again. Like, I don't like that. Like, just make them different. Like, who cares? Like, don't do the duplicate thing. But like, it makes even less sense here. There's not a thing about it that makes sense, right? Like, in terms of just the function of it and like the morality of it, right? It's just it like, again, and I'm saying, as someone who, like, I hate David with a fucking passion, and if he had shown up, it would have worked better. It just would have, like, it made more sense. Prometheus Fire sounds more fitting coming out of David's voice than CGI Ian Holm, right? It would make me yell "fuck you" at the screen, which I did in the theater I saw it in when they said the phrase Prometheus Fire. And my father looked at me because I was having a bit of a reaction to the film.
I loved that part, though.
No, here's something. I will give you this. When the black goo showed up, I was like, cool. That's interesting. It's like, it's the black goo. If you know what it is, it's cool. But you don't need to know what it is, right? Like, I'm like, that's cool. When Ian Holmes said Prometheus Fire, I went, fuck you, at the screen. Because, like, by that point, there had been a lot of, like, saying the thing that was in the movie. Like, that there had been a little too much of just the, like, repeating stuff, and like maybe the inflection changing a little bit here and there, and then someone says pulse rifles like 30 seconds later, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, fuck,
safety's on God. And shit like that.
Like, I mean, by that point I think I went out and I was like, fuck it, I need some sugar in my body to fucking override what's happening here, and I just went out and bought some Skittles. Like,
no, here's the thing, because I had the same reaction to, like, God, we're really, like, because one, Fede talked up, like, you know, he wants to avoid the member berries. He doesn't want the member berries to be the full meal. Like, if the audience knows what it is, it's great. If not, I
got some bad news, Fede.
But no, here's the fucking thing, because I'm in complete agreement with you about all that stuff, especially with the ash lines, you know, like all of the priorities just said that. It's like, no, I've seen Alien, you know. I went with a lot of people who didn't ever see an Alien movie to that last public showing I went to, and I you know what's fucked up? I think he's absolutely right. I just think the lines are too on the nose for the people that do know that it's not cool, and it's very obnoxious for people that have seen other Alien movies.
Diego,
but clearly it worked for new people.
Diego, shut the fuck up. That is what
I'm serious.
No, I'm not saying you're lying. That's why Force Awakens played with people who aren't into Star Wars. Like, the same thing happened. Like, it still did it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's this movie. Look, the movie is. It's the Force Awakens of the franchise. It's the simplest. It is the movie just boiled down to iconography that will play with general audiences. That's why it's going to work with general audiences. There's nothing deeper here. It's just there. Like, Force Awakens took more chances, man. Like, it's not shocking that this plays with general audiences. He didn't build the movie around those references, but there's still, it's one where if you have seen another Alien movie, every time he makes a reference like that, it is a signal to how hollow this movie really is. Now, again, of course it plays to someone who hasn't seen an Alien film, because they don't know any of this shit. But as someone who's fucking tired of what the Alien franchise, this is the worst version of it. Like, it's so bad in that respect. Like, I hated that shit. And even my father, who, like, is, like, fucking Marvel pilled to the extreme, and is very, like, you know, like, they said the thing, like, he likes shit like that. He was, even, like, after this movie, he was like, I don't know why he said bitch after that. Like, I don't know why he said you bitch. Like, that didn't make any sense. And I was like, he was like, Was that alien even female? Like, how did he know? It like really bugged my father. Who I think enjoyed it more than I did. Who was the guy who was like given Prometheus more chances than any human being on Earth and still doesn't like it. Like I catch him watching it all the time, and he walks away every time being like, "Fucking movie doesn't work." Yeah. Like his take is that the deleted scenes are better than what's in the movie. That he's like, if they put the deleted scenes in, it would work. I don't know if I agree, but that's his take on it.
I think it's unanimous, and as someone who does like love Prometheus now, it's like, no, that movie like needed that director's cut that just never came from the guy who's known for his better director's cuts. He's like the guy that you should always give the green light to. But
there's also stuff in the deleted scenes that are just alternate takes, and the alternate takes play better. For my father, he's like, what? Like, I don't know why they went with the line reading that's in the movie as opposed to the one that is in the deleted scenes.
Part-time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, got some Indy 5 vibes watching this thing.
You know what's fucked up? Indy 5 is a better movie than this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is unfortunate.
And I don't even hate this movie, apart from the one fucking thing. I just don't think it comes together very well.
Here's the truth. I can see people hating Indy 5, but there's no moment in Romulus that like had me genuinely excited the way when they actually go back in time in Indy 5 did. Like, that was a genuine moment in the movie where I'm like, this movie's like kind of hit and miss, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. Like, this is actually a really cool idea. When what's Indy's line in that when they're in the plane? He's like, I don't know where we're going, but it's not 1945.
Yeah,
like, that was the most Indy shit in that movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's just nothing equivalent in this movie.
Yeah. Whereas that movie has like a stronger script and like weaker direction, and I love James Mangold. This is not criticism of him. Just that's not his bag. That's not his bag. That's all.
Yeah, and he's going up against fucking Steven Spielberg. Like,
yeah,
that movie had no chance, and it's way too fucking long. Like,
it does not need to be 2.5 hours.
This movie is one of those weird ones where it's like too short but feels too long. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like a longer cut of this movie would have probably played better than the short version we have. But,
yeah.
All right. I'm trying to think about what I liked how the face huggers were introduced. I liked that setup of they needed to like turn some, like, it's kind of Jurassic Park in like how they're turning stuff off, not realizing the domino effect it's having, right?
Yeah.
I kind of liked that, and I liked because I think it was practical. I like the shutting the door, looking back, and it's jammed full of the face huggers.
That moment,
yeah,
it's so cool.
That was like that was. Like,
I'm not
that was
above
the
it.
No, that was the moment where even as a hater, I'm like, okay, shit's about to get good. And then that scene kind of ended like really quickly after that, and it was like, oh, all right, maybe we'll get back to that.
This is why Ash fucks up the movie so bad. Because it only ends immediately because they have to talk to Ash in that next room. It's fucking stupid. You take Ash out of the movie, boom, extended facehugger chase sequence. You know?
Yeah.
It's so fucking, god damn it.
I wonder how this movie would play if our main characters never learned what was going on. Like, that's a really hard thing to sell, you know? It's very hard to make that engaging, but I wonder, I don't think it's impossible to make a movie where someone ends up in an alien movie and never learns what they're dealing with, you know?
AVPR.
Oh, fuck, you're right. That's why that movie works.
Yeah. Hopefully regraded new version of the movie coming in the future. Who knows? Possibly.
How the fuck did the worm turn? When did that happen? I was the only one.
I think you.
I was the only one.
I think it genuinely...
10 years ago, I was the only one.
It was you and Max. I think it's you two who started the movie. I genuinely believe that.
But here's the problem. God bless you, Max, but Max likes everything. So, like his endorsement is... I just don't understand when suddenly everyone was like, yeah, we all kind of agree that AVPR is at least better than AVP, which, like, even saying that was controversial 10 years ago. When you got mad at me when I said that. Like,
I did, but you won me over to like what the movie is going for versus like now look like I want to get back to Romulus in a second, but like AVP should not be an alien movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, it shouldn't be that heady. It shouldn't be a science fiction film first. That's like a splatter dome movie. You know, that's like you're going for the beat 'em up shit. Like, you're going to make a movie as fucking badass as possible. That's it. Like, I'm sorry, AVP is never gonna be Alien. It's never gonna be Aliens. It's never gonna be Alien fucking 3. You know?
Yeah.
Like just make a movie where people get fucked up in really cool ways. Like, frankly,
they're really,
Michael Bay should do an AVP movie.
Yeah,
like, that's the vibe.
They're the movies where you should go gonzo with it. Like, you should just go, like, let's get wild. And, like, part of my big problem with AVP 1 is that it seemed to take the shortest walk possible on basically everything in it. So, like...
Also, the action sucks in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, but that's...
I rewatched clips, and apart from a couple moments, it's so lame.
Also, just in a reference to Romulus, I remember the advertising for AVP really playing up how it was the most robotics used in a single film at the time of its release, in terms of, like, the alien monsters. And I'm like, that we might have to start seeing that as a red flag when they're selling a movie. Like, we might have to start going, if they're talking about that, they don't have anything else to talk about. It's like when the crew goes, like, we had so much fun making the movie. I'm like, oh, the movie's not good. Like, it's become that at this point. But yeah, I'm just fascinated. I just did, because no one informed me. Like, no one told me that actually, Matt, you were right about AVPR. Like,
it just ended up happening.
Yeah, it was weird. I would like to see. Yeah, it would be interesting. Although I also remember defending the grading of the movie at the time, so I kind of have mixed feelings about it getting corrected. But we'll see. It's on Blu-ray, so I'm fine for now. Like, I don't need, if they update a corrected version, they release that, then I can live with that too.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the... Like,
and then you'd have a collector's item.
I doubt it. But,
well, hey, even shout out to Fede Alvarez, because even he was like, AVPR I think is known as the worst one, but hey, that movie has sick kills, and he's like, yeah, he's right. Yeah. When he's right, he's right.
Yeah, I mean, no, like, the guy has a good head on his shoulders about the films. Honestly, like, he seemed to have a good attitude about it. As someone who is a hater of most of these movies, me. Like, I could still feel that, and it was I want a guy like that stewarding this, like, because he didn't seem up there. He wasn't talking about fixing any, like, that's what you don't want to hear. You don't want to hear a guy being like, I'm here to fix it, right? Like,
yeah,
you just want the movie to be good, and you want to recognize what was good about the other movies. But yeah, it just didn't work. It just didn't work, man. Like, What else did you like? Because I'm actually struggling to remember other things I enjoyed in the movie.
Honestly, the set pieces, like the first facehugger thing, I really liked that they don't just have them jumping on the people immediately, and like part of that is to extend the sequence, like, yeah, but physically the answer in the movie is like, well, they're underwater and they're scurrying, so it's like harder for them to like gain that momentum and spring with their tail. So it's like, okay, that's fun. That's that. The movie has an answer for that, but you don't need to think about that. But the answer is there, and so that kind of like ups the stakes in a little way. I really like the sequence when the xenomorph is coming out of the wall thing, like the cocoon thing. We've never I don't care that we've never seen it before. I just like the look of that.
No, that was another one. That was another moment I did like. I like it's spitting acid almost. I think that's what it was doing.
It was like oozing it because the guy Bjorn like stabs it with like the electric rod, whatever, And if you look in the movie, they don't do enough close-ups of it. That xenomorph specifically still has like the electric rod in its head, so when it's like face to face with Kaylee Spaney, it's like flashing, which I just thought was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Doesn't make sense because it's full of acid, but whatever. I don't give a shit about that.
All right, yeah. I thought it was like spitting as like a defense mechanism. The cocoon. Like I thought it was spitting on him for some reason.
Well, like maybe it was. I just read it as like he's like stabbed it and like acid's coming out and
Yeah.
then he dies and it's goopy and gross
yeah.
and not the most exciting death, but
No,
maybe that's why
I actually liked that death. Or at least did the acid kill him or did the thing kill him? I don't even remember.
the acid. So like
yeah, like
the tail gets him in the eye and knocks him down. Then the acid starts dripping on him because he sees it dripping before. So they set it up, and then it starts falling on him. And then a big blob gets on his chest, and he's like, "Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck!" And then
yeah, I kind of liked that because I don't think we've actually seen anyone killed by the acid in the movies.
There's that one guy in Aliens. Who gets like blasted?
Yeah, but he's like it's like he gets blasted and then they leave him behind. Like
yeah.
It's a little different.
Like he ain't coming back from that, but you know.
Yeah. Although is he one of the ones that's still alive in the cocoon though? Like when they check the vitals on them.
Let me check. I should know this. This is one I don't know. Oh no, he's dead.
Who was the idiot they brought back for Aliens Colonial Marines?
Okay, this is fucked up.
Yeah,
it's actually Hicks.
No, but there's another one.
Really?
There's another one, and it's like a character that like no one remembers, if I remember correctly. Like I remember Hicks. So I remember Hicks being in it, but.
I don't know.
You know what? I could be.
I don't think it's anyone else.
I could be wrong, but I could have sworn there was someone else in it beside Hicks. But still, either way, it's dumb, right?
Yeah, it's so stupid. That game, fucking, it sucks so much.
I think even what's his name, Michael Biehn, was like talking shit about it too. Like,
well, it's just like this is why I am glad Romulus didn't just do like Aliens 2.
They're gonna
like,
do.
I'm sorry, like
they're gonna do that next.
I mean, hey, that's a very big possibility.
They're gonna do it next.
We'll see. But look, like the Neil Blomkamp version specifically, right? I'm sure that was a very ugly divorce. I kind of feel for the guy because on the day Romulus came out, he tweeted like a 10-hour Zen YouTube audio link, and I was like, oh Jesus, like this poor bastard. But
Neil Blomkamp.
I also don't want that movie.
No offense, Neil Blomkamp. Like, what's going on with that guy? Like,
well, he's also like he follows like a lot of conservative pundits and shit like that.
Yeah,
So
like he's
like
he's a little too like pissy about things, in my opinion. Like, oh, you didn't get to direct Aliens. Like, I'm sorry, you didn't get to do Aliens. Like one of the most coveted franchises ever. Like literally everyone wants to do Alien. Like. What the fuck?
I also don't know if that's true, but also I'm not defending the guy.
Like, but what I'm saying
is
like 99% of the directors working in Hollywood would jump at doing an Alien film. Like the people that make franchise movies, they want Alien, right? Like so, Neil Blomkamp isn't unique in that respect. Also, he made one good movie, so
yeah, that's the thing.
That's really gonna hold you back. And although I know like for like half a second people tried to defend Gran Turismo, but then I think that went away.
Yeah, I've heard it's good, but I don't know, whatever. I'm not interested. But anyways, like I am glad that Romulus didn't do that, and it's all the attempts at doing that, like even AVP2, which I think is far and away the best like Alien versus Predator game. The Marine story for that like sucks. Like the gameplay is solid, but like compared to like when you play as the Alien or the Predator, like that stuff is so fucking cool and like exciting. And then the Marine story is just like you're a badass Marine who's like gotta fight a queen at the end and then you escape, and it's just like there's like nothing there. There's nothing left to do with the Marine stuff. Although I guess Dark Descent.
Yeah,
Dark Descent seems to be the one.
Dark Descent, but I also think if that game has kind of like I think it has XCOM mechanics, and anyone that plays XCOM knows how much you get the fucking shit kicked out of you going up against the aliens in that game. Have you played XCOM?
I have not.
Dude, played some XCOM. It's very alien adjacent.
Okay, I will. Oh, this is another thing, and I brought this up before too, for sure. I think if you do Colonial Marines again, you have to make them like secondary antagonists, right?
Yeah.
To the point where when they're first getting on the Romulus space station, there's like that comment, or earlier, there's that comment from the younger sister character, where like they're like, oh, like we're gonna go in and like steal all this stuff, and the younger sister's like, before someone else does. And I thought like, oh, we're setting up like other people, like Weyland-Yutani like security team is gonna show up or something like that in the midway, and like keep amping up the stakes. Like that didn't happen, and I get that might have been a little busy, but like, I you could have thrown something else in there. Because I do think the movie like drags at points until the third act. I do think the third act finally is where it moves. Your response to that will certainly be divided,
Why,
I guess.
Why do you think it moves there?
I think there it's completely just the set pieces, and I think this is Fede's like real talent as a filmmaker. I think his weakness is he's only interested in characters to the point where how can I use them in a set piece. So I like the second facehugger sequence too, when they're moving through the hallways and they break down like, okay, so these things can scan your body temperature or whatever. Like I don't care about the logistics of that, or if they're going to track with other readings of the facehuggers. I think it works for the scene. And like, okay, you can't do this, otherwise this is going to happen. So it's like, okay, set up, eventual payoff, let's go. Oh no, another angle. The sister's trying to get out of the ship before the xenomorph hatches completely. Oh no, we just lost the other guy on the ship. So it's like all these things stacking on each other, right? And the final third of the movie is just that constantly. Once Rain decides like, I'm not gonna leave Andy after all, like I'm gonna go back down and get him, the movie just keeps going. It's like, first gotta go back and get Andy. Okay, then you have to like wipe out the xenomorphs to get back to the elevator. Okay, now you have to get up the elevator. Okay, now you have to get onto the ship before the space station crashes. Oh no, there's another one on the ship. And then it's like, oh no, now you gotta shoot it out of the goddamn airlock again. And then you finally can catch your fucking breath. And I think that's when the movie is most entertaining for me.
None of that worked for me.
That's totally fine, but that's why it worked for me, because it just kept moving, and I don't think the actual narrative is that engaging. Because like, this is the last thing I want to say really quick. The movie is technically a heist movie. There's not much heist.
It's a heist. Look, people said that. That's a bullshit. That is a complete lie. It is not a heist film. It's for 2 minutes of scene of people trying to take another ship. Like that's it. It is not a heist film. There is nothing involved in this that has the function of a heist film, other than we got to open a door. Like that's not a heist film. Whoever said that is report to the Hague. Like
no. Some journalists brought it up because they're like, oh, like the trailer makes it look like it's a heist film, and I'm gonna give credit to Fede because he was like, oh, like I guess kind of, yeah, like he was caught off guard by that too. It's like, so it's not like he was pitching that, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Maybe my criticism. That's my one criticism that's off base.
So here's another problem we're running into with these alien films. We get so much talk about these things are the fucking perfect organism, right? And they're regularly defeated by people who just discovered them that day. So maybe that's why I didn't find the third act so engaging.
That's fair.
I think that's a problem running through a lot of these movies. It's like I don't actually it gets labeled, it gets put on Aliens a lot that it turns the alien xenomorph into like kind of like cannon fodder, and I think that's actually more the director's cut. But it's a little true in Aliens, but I think it's more people not learning the correct lesson from Aliens, like which keeps happening. Where these creatures kind of get trivialized a little bit. I also think it is a problem where like part of what works about Alien is that we don't get a good look at it until the very end, so we don't actually really know what it's doing. And like once you see it crawling around enough, you're like I could take this fucking thing, like, which is not the vibe you should have watching the movie. Like. You shouldn't be able to sit there and go, Yeah, if I had a gun, I could stop it. Like literally, like look, like literally in the climax, the gun isn't the problem. It's not like she's like, oh, if I shoot this thing, it won't work. It's the bullets deflect off of it. It's like, well, no, the acid is the problem because it'll leak through the hull. And then it's like, so it's like once she goes like, oh, zero gravity, okay, boom, all right, now I can shoot them. And it's like that's not very threatening. Like it's not. I wouldn't want to be in that position, but it is not the most threatening position I can think of to be in terms of going up against a monster. You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it deflates the stakes a little bit. I mean, these movies kind of do have like without their heads, they're powerless moments. Like of like it's a perfect organism, you can't stop it. Did you try shooting it? Oh, you're right. That does work actually. Like, actually, it turns out guns do kill it, huh? All right, so man is still on top because we got guns. We got guns. They got guns. All God's children got guns. Like it's so it does kind of trivialize the perfect killer organism nature of the xenomorph a little bit. And the other thing, and this is really where I think this is just an inevitability. We've seen the xenomorph too much for it not to start becoming sympathetic a little bit. I know how insane that sounds, but we've become too familiar with it. We can see its face, we can intellectualize it as a living thing. Yes, it's always killing people, but it's no longer some intangible, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
thing that has a life cycle that we understand. It if you buy all the lore, it was created by a bad person, which isn't its fault. It didn't ask to be made. If you watch Aliens, the alien queen, the only emotion we see out of any of the alien creatures in any of the films is the alien queen expressing rage at her offspring being killed, which is still an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just we've gotten to this point where we've seen it too much. I worry about that because as much as I'm like it has to become sympathetic, I also think making it sympathetic might break the franchise. You know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not this isn't me being like it has to happen. I'm just worried. I'm just like but if it sticks around longer, it's just an inevitability. Like it's a we're gonna start to feel for it more. And it's a crazy thing, but we talk about how we live in this like really uncaring times. Humans have basic empathy drilled into us through evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's why we see faces on inanimate objects and we feel bad about throwing out a toaster that doesn't work anymore, we human beings actually feel way too much almost. Like I actually think that's a good thing, but it's something about us, and it's starting to happen with the alien. And I almost this movie almost got so interesting right at the end. This movie almost got so interesting with the fucking baby alien, which yes is from Resurrection, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Resurrection already did this with the hybrid thing. But when it goes up to its mother, and for a second it's like you think it's sniffing her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's like, oh, it's gonna love its mother, and then it doesn't even do that, and then it just becomes another thing we have to beat in a movie that's already exhausted the amount of times I want to see them beat something, and I just yeah, it was a real bummer of a note to end the movie on, that it's getting too repetitive, and it like the one moment because you can kind of get away with making the hybrid sympathetic, right? Like they gave the hybrid
Mm-hmm.
in Resurrection like kind of innocent eyes, you
Yeah, they
know?
gave us sad puppy dog
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, like you feel bad for it, and I
Yeah.
think that's a good choice to do with like a hybrid of it. But I just don't like it's becoming a problem, and this movie being a hit, we're gonna get more of them, right?
Mhm.
And
Well, if it has a massive second weekend drop off, this will come out the Sunday
Mm.
of the second weekend release.
Mm.
If it doesn't like keep up pace, then then it's gonna make Covenant money, not Prometheus money, which
Yeah.
I think they would fucking kill for now. I think people forget Prometheus was kind of a hit.
Yeah, no, Prometheus
despite
did,
being divisive.
Yeah, Prometheus did very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I did see it in an empty theater.
Yeah, I saw that, and I saw other people post that too. And I've just never seen that theater that crowd. Or I haven't seen that theater I went to that crowded for a horror movie in a very long time. That's why I was like, oh, maybe. But that was first weekend.
But I also saw it on a weekday, so like that's a whole other thing. I think people are smart enough with horror movies to go, I don't want to see this on a weekday just in case. Like I don't want to go into work the next day being too shaken by fucking long legs. Like,
yeah. I'll say about that last like 15-20 minutes especially. I do think it's like, again, this is all, the movie is functional. At the end of the day, I think the movie is very functional, and I realize that's not enough for me. I like Alien when it's kind of a science fiction movie more than a straight horror movie. That's what I'm coming to realize, and I think I want some pretentious headiness with it. I want the first act to be kind of slow and boring, I want these big ideas thrown, even if they don't make sense or aren't that, like, thought out.
I think I come to it more from wanting it to be a horror movie. And
it still didn't, like, deliver for you.
Well, because it's an action movie. Like, it's not John Wick, it's not Aliens, but it's a movie of action, right? This amount of action didn't happen in the first Alien, right?
No, it didn't.
Like, there's arguably 2 action sequences in the first Alien, and like by action, I don't mean like fucking driving a motorcycle through a billboard or something. Like I'm talking like in terms of characters doing things physically. And
yeah, like a full sequence.
Like
it's very minimal.
It's very minimal in Alien. And this is a movie of action sequences, and I don't think the action is that great. It's again a lot of it's functional, but it doesn't get to where it arguably needs to be. And then I think it doesn't serve the people who want a more science fiction bent to it, and I think it doesn't serve someone like me who wants a more horror bent to it. And yeah, I think it's just become a problem. It's become a problem. This franchise, it's in a weird spot right now. And I don't know what's gonna happen next. And it's one of these things where like I'm worried that I think it's just kind of doomed. Like, because if it's a hit, we're gonna get Aliens Romulus. That's what's going to be next. It's not going to be Aliens 2. It's going to be Aliens Romulus. But if it fails, then we will get Aliens 2. And then we got the Alien Earth thing from Noah Hawley, which I'm sure is going to be like a Surf Dracula of just like nothing's going to happen until the last episode of that goddamn thing.
You know what's funny? Like, because even though like I don't like love this movie, I was entertained by it. And then I'm gonna not watch it for a while. I am like I don't give a shit about like how much practical effects work you put in a movie. Like just make it look good, digital or practical, whatever. I did really like the look of the practical and digital aliens in this. And then like they're starting to hype that up for Noah Hawley's thing too, and I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Go away. Get a job.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. It was hit and miss for me in Romulus. I wanted to like it a lot more in terms of like just being like, like when you try to go like, okay, I'm not liking the actual movie, but I will just enjoy the Alien. It didn't really get to me there. I don't think Fetty did a good job shooting it. I don't think he knows how to shoot his effects. Like there was a certain lack of intensity to it, or an even playfulness in the directing, which I think hurt the end result. So it's like, a lot of people worked really hard, but it's like they didn't showcase it very well, in my opinion. And
I think he gets, if I may, like I think he gets the motion of the face huggers, like the practical and the digital ones. I think he marries those very well together. I think the xenomorphs look great when they're digital and practical, especially for like the snarling close-ups. When he has to jump between the two in the finale,
Yeah.
especially,
And
I don't think it's married that well.
when
Even though I enjoyed that sequence the most.
when they have to move forward, they don't look great.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of the problem. But I think that might just be a xenomorph problem, right? Like the worst shot in Alien is the full body shot of the alien floating in space, where it just
Yeah.
looks goofy. Like it's
Oh yeah. Sorry. How did you feel that it was Big Chap? That's the nickname for the alien. That it's just the first leftover alien from the first movie. Did that give you a visceral anger, or did you just not care?
I didn't even notice.
Okay. Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
missed
Because
that. So
yeah, it's the remnants of the Nostromo, right? And then
uh,
they just find the alien floating out there, frozen in space. Which, um, I okay. I thought like, okay, you're literally like unearthing the franchise like from its origins, right?
you're talking about the opening scene of the movie.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I I had completely forgotten that sequence had even happened.
Okay.
It's talk about not needing it. Like who
You know what?
cares?
Maybe you didn't need it. I did like the direction of that. Like it's without dialogue.
It, it
It's just kind of the atmosphere and the images, and it ends with the shot of the engraving of the xenomorph in the space rock they found. I thought that was very effective, and then I did not find a lot of the other stuff very effective outside of the set pieces. So,
Here's what I remember about that opening is that they tried to do the Fox logo thing with the
mhm.
from Alien 3, but then they had to go into the Scott-free logo, so it fucked it up. So it's like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
starting on a bad foot, and then it's like we're floating in space, and I'm like, okay, I think they think Alien starts like this, but it doesn't. There's music in that sequence,
Hmm.
and then like I'm like a bunch of stuff happens, and I did not even pick up that it was supposed to be the Nostromo.
Oh, it's they had the light that hit the side of the scrap.
Didn't
It's
see
like a
it.
stromo.
Didn't see it. I was probably
Oh
like, well, this is a down spaceship. It doesn't matter. Like,
no.
who cares what the name is? Like, that's literally what I was thinking. So I didn't bother. And so I'm like, oh, they got a thing. All right. It's like, all right, they found one. Cool. And then I'm like, they did the title wrong a little bit too. Like, this isn't how the why are you referencing how the titles form in the original if you're gonna do it wrong? Like, just don't like do your own thing. And then the movie started proper, and then it's like, well, she's gonna live the whole movie.
I thought they were gonna do a sort of bait and switch with the younger sister character. Because when that character's like, "Oh, like I'm pregnant" or whatever,
Now
I
that
was like,
would have
"Okay,"
been fun. Now that would have been interesting.
because then if it's her and Andy surviving, then it's like, okay, you can expand that idea of like what you do for your siblings. Like, how do you live for your siblings? Do you like, what does that even mean to like have someone you care about
Oh,
like that? And then you could like make that like interesting because then it's like they lose the most important person in their lives and they have to start looking out for each other anyway. So they themselves become siblings. Like, I don't know. That would have been
that would
something.
have been something. Hey, you know what was a really dumb shot in this movie? When they also like they just put way too much into like the Prometheus fire being like, look what it can do to this rat we crushed. Like, whatever, fuck you.
Oh,
Like, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like,
I liked that stuff. I thought we were gonna get weirder monsters, so I did get happy with the baby at the end.
yeah, whatever. But the really bad shot is the because it starts as a really good shot of we saw the rat reform, and then there. But then if you look in the cage, there's like a giant, like a fucking like deformed thing, and then you're like, oh my god, that must have been the rat. Oh god. Oh okay. So like yeah, like you knew this Prometheus fire was going to be a problem no matter what. But it was still kind of a cool, like, to be like, oh, okay, that's what happened to it. But then they pan over to a CRT screen that then just shows that exact thing that you already knew happened. And then, like, okay. All right, yeah. You know. Um, I love movie magic. Yeah, I kind of hated this movie. I don't care I don't even know the names of the characters. So I don't know what happens to any of them. Uh, I don't. It seemed like Rain had like more going on with her than was never revealed. So I don't know if that's like something they're trying to do for a sequel, but other than that, it was. I didn't like Andy. Um, all the he's not even Ash. He's like another guy. Like
Rook is his name, which is also like, okay, then if it's just a different guy,
mm,
like it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
yeah, it's like
it's the stupidest thing of all time.
It's one of the worst choices ever in cinema.
These people
history.
should know better.
Yeah, everyone involved should know better and apologize, frankly, and should not be rewarded for doing that, because then we're going to get like an army of Ashes in the next movie.
I guess allegedly Ridley Scott had been talking to Ian Holm for the eventual third Prometheus film, which didn't happen, and they wanted to do that de-aging thing, so he had been in conversation with his estate, yada yada, respectability. I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, he is no longer with us. It's fucked up. It's strange, and it is off-putting and immoral.
Well, that's also like where, like, I think why like Ridley Scott couldn't decide if he wanted those things to be their own thing, right? Like he couldn't. He, like, why were we even entertaining the idea that Ian Holm would show up in Prometheus 3? Like, there's no reason other than to reference the movie, right? Like, aren't they supposed to stand on their own? Aren't they supposed to be a different thing?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, I wouldn't have put it past Ridley Scott to be like, to somehow reference Ellen Ripley in the final Prometheus film he had planned. Like, I wouldn't put it past him, because I think his instincts are pretty terrible in that regard. Because I don't know what he thinks about the franchise or franchises in general. He seems to have contempt for them, but also feels like it's like he's trying to take it back for himself in a way. And it's a little frustrating in terms of how it actually ends up being. But, you know, yeah, I do not recommend Alien Romulus. I'm sure the theme park ride Disney will eventually put in will be fun.
Oh, yeah, that'll be great.
That's actually not true. They've been fucking up the theme parks a lot lately. So, like Rise of Rise of the Resistance was fun, but...
yeah, that's the one. If you can get that quality for an Alien ride... Say hello to a new Disney pass holder. Here's
the problem. How do you do a ride at Disney that's Alien that like actually works? Because if it works, it's gonna scare the shit out of people. Like, you're gonna make a ride that's like too scary.
Yeah, maybe they can't do it then.
Yeah,
like their brand won't let them.
Well, you know about the extraterrestrial, right?
No.
Oh, you do? Oh, shit, you don't know this? Oh, my God, you are going to be so pissed that you missed out on this.
Am I?
Disney had a ride that was called, like, the Extraterrestrial. It started as an Alien ride.
What?
They were going to do an Alien ride. They were trying, like, it was around the time they built Hollywood Studios. And they were like trying to get more brands into the park, right? Like Star Tours had been a big hit, you know? And they were like, we should get more brands. We should do an Alien ride. And I don't know why it didn't totally work out. I think it was one of those things where, like, they decided it was too scary. But the Alien Xenomorph did appear on the Great movie ride. If you ever rode that back in the day. Did you ever do that?
No, I didn't.
It's just a tour through, like, you go through like a bunch of different movies, and then there's a fun part where your tour, but like it's like you're on a tour bus, you know, like how you go through like a back lot, but like because it's Disney, it's like magical. your bus gets hijacked by like a cowboy from the Wild West studio, and he's like, "I'm a getting out of here," and he makes a wrong turn and ends up on the Alien set, and like a xenomorph pops out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. But the idea was going to be that you were going to be on the Alien ride. Now, this is what the ride was going to be this, and then they built a ride called the Extraterrestrial that hit basically all of these beats. It's a circle. It existed for a long time. It was a circle theater, so it's like everyone sits in a circle. You get kind of strapped into these seats, like you have like presses on your shoulder that keep you from getting up because it would be a problem if you got up during it. And there's a big tube in the middle of the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the tube comes down, and it would have been an alien egg. It would have been the alien egg, and then it would have hatched, and then the lights would have gone out, and then you would have felt stuff like going on your shoulders and shit, right? While you're
Oh my
sitting there
god.
and running between your feet. And then when the lights came back on, there was going to be a xenomorph in the middle of the room, like a giant, scary one. And they did a. You can look it up. Look up Extraterrestrial. It has the same beats. It's basically Alien and all but named and like slightly toned down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it ran for a few years, and yeah, Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. It had the reputation of being too scary. They tried to make it more kid friendly, like they put a bunch of goofy stuff in there, but it didn't work. It looks like a giant bug. You can look it up. You can look up pictures of it. It's on. You can find pictures. Uh, it was rethemed to a Stitch ride for the last few years. So
I just looked it up. I'm just seeing that.
yeah, so like for like the last 5 years, Stitch would have appeared, and instead of him like attacking you, he would have like burped on you. Um, so
Wow.
yeah.
I love Lilo and Stitch. That does still sound fun,
Mm,
but is there a better encapsulation of like
mm.
the brand than that change? And again, this is not
Yeah,
anti Lilo and Stitch at all, which is like a top 5 Disney movie, right?
yeah,
It's just like let's try something that's like it's got a reputation for being too much of what it's sold as in a
yeah.
good way, maybe, right? Maybe in a bad way, but like
Mm,
it's exciting and new and different. And then well, like now we could just make it like a safe brand.
mm.
And it's like that's all Disney is now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
they've done that. Like it's bad. I think that did have a problem though. Just like no one was riding it because they heard it was too scary. Like I think that was genuinely
oh,
the right. I mean, there's also like like Mission Space, which famously like killed 2 people.
oh
Like
Jesus
and
Christ.
Mission Space for like I think even now is like a walk on attraction, even though it won't kill you now. Like if you did you ever ride Mission Space?
No.
You can basically experience like 5Gs on it, which the human body usually can't handle more than 4Gs. It's meant to simulate what it's like to it's meant to simulate what it's like to be in a rocket launching into space. Like, and you do feel it. Like, you really do feel your body being like, holy shit, like we're taking off into space. But not everyone listens to the "don't ride if you have a heart condition" thing.
Mm.
And it killed 2 people. In fact, it killed someone 20 minutes after I wrote it.
Oh my God.
I wrote it on a Disney vacation with the family, like when I was, I think, 12, maybe 13. And I got back to my hotel room, and then there was on the news that someone had died, like right after we had
Jesus
written it.
Christ.
So it's still standing, but it's like a walk on. Like there's usually no line for it now because people are obviously frightened of the ride that kills people. Like, trying to think. Although you know what, Tower of Terror gets a crowd, uh, and that's like
That's
horror
true.
themed, and is a really intense ride. Maybe it's just because I think the thing is Alien Encounter. What is it really? You sit in the middle of a theater, right? Like that's not that thrilling. So
Mm.
it's essentially a ride where the function of it is for children, but the actual presentation is horror.
Yeah.
So you would have to like I could see them actually retheming Tower of Terror to being an alien attraction if they want to stop paying the Twilight Zone IP rights.
If here's my my take on that. If this movie makes $500 million, they're doing that.
Mm.
If not, they won't.
No, they're gonna put something alien in the parks, though.
I mean, that's been like kind of an open secret. I think that
but,
they've been gunning for that since they bought it.
Retheming Tower of Terror is like the cheap option, though. Like, if this movie hits, I think they would build like a genuine alien ride, or hell, even an alien land. Although isn't like right now there's like all the rumors that they're gonna close Muppet Vision, right?
Yes.
Like, which we got to stop it. We got to do something. We really do.
I mean, I've never been to Walt Disney World in Florida, but I guess they're also closing like the Tom Sawyer Island.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's a weird one. Yeah, that's kind of like an iconic attraction.
Yeah, and they're adding like Cars stuff or something like that.
Oh yeah, they're doing Radiator Springs. I mean, people like that, but Tom Sawyer Island is kind of it's an older school one of just like you walk around it, like it isn't really a ride, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting rid of a lot of that kind of stuff. They want rides and they want IP in there.
Yeah. It's the most boring shit ever. Like, because having not been to that, to me, if you're like a young kid going somewhere, like that's a place where your imagination kind of takes you going. But imagination doesn't make money, so that's fucked up. But that's their line of thinking, and it's like I don't know. That was like a little sad to hear, having not even been involved with that.
Yeah, it's a direction the parks are going that's really depressing. I mean, it's that thing of like, you know, you go to Muppet Vision. You go to the Muppet store and they have like Jack Skellingtons at the store, right? Like, because Jack Skellington sells more. And it's like, well, shouldn't the Muppet store at least have Muppet stuff? And it's like, well, the Jack Skellingtons sell more. And it's like, that's the number crunching they do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, look, I get it. Muppet Vision's in a weird spot because they wanted to do a whole Muppet Land, and then Jim Henson died, and his family hated Michael Eisner so much they didn't want to do anything with him anymore. So here's my suggestion. Like, look, just move the Muppet Vision Theater. It's a theater ride. That's an easy one to move. If they announced, like, we're closing Muppet Vision, but we're moving it to a different part of the park, I'm not going to lose much sleep over that. It's not the actual building isn't that important. But for God's sakes, Muppet Vision is literally in the top 5 of attractions across Disney World right now. Like, don't you fucking dare touch Muppet Vision. Also, do something about that woman you killed. Like, do something about the person you poisoned and they're trying to say that their Disney Plus subscription invalidates the lawsuit. Did you hear about that?
I think I heard it about in passing, but I don't think I knew about like the extent of this.
I believe I'm gonna get the details wrong, so apologies. But a woman had like said, "Hey, I have a food allergy. That's not in this food, right?" And she checked like 3 times, and they said, "Yeah," and then it was in the food, and then she died.
Yes, that's right.
And so they're trying to they're suing Disney for wrongful death, and they're saying, well, because she had a pre-existing Disney Plus subscription, it invalidates the trip to the park.
Yeah, and I'm glad that everyone immediately was like, what the fuck? Like, everyone's just like, no, that's wrong. Like, you're not gonna win that. That's not...
I mean, Disney wins, man. Like, don't sleep on that one. Disney wins their lawsuits. Like,
I mean, yes, but I'm choosing to be optimistic because that is one of the most insane things I've ever heard in my entire life.
What's crazy to me is that Disney is usually smart about what lawsuits they let go public, right? Like, this screams settle out of court, right? Like, this screams don't let people know what happened. And instead they're like, not only are we going to fight it, we're going to use the most insane reason to fight it. So, yeah. Maybe the alien ride will actually kill you.
I know. And they'll be like, well, you signed up for that.
Here's an actual question. What is your dream, like, alien ride?
I don't want it to just be stuff from the movies, which is probably what it will be. I want it to just be like someone comes up with a concept of a spaceship, or you do it like Rise of the Resistance does, where it's like you start either on a planet, right, and you have to like, all right, come on guys, let's get on this getaway ship. Oh, the aliens pop up. Look out for the face huggers, right? And then you go up to the spaceship, and then oh no, the Queen snuck on board, which is a little bit of Aliens, but whatever. It's like I do want
They're gonna
like
hit
the full fucking package.
They're gonna hit the beats from the movie. I mean, Star Tours has the Death Star in it. Like that's just what happens.
No.
It don't matter.
Okay.
Like,
well, in that case, yeah, you start at the derelict ship from Alien. You go back to the colony, alien outbreak, go up to spaceship, Queen, throw it out of the goddamn airlock. You did it. You get to go to cryo sleep. That would be the run. But you know, make it fucking spicy because like Rise of the Resistance isn't that complicated. It's so much fucking fun.
It's great.
That is like that is
Resistance.
true like theme park magic shit.
It was I waited 3 hours for that thing and it was worth it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything I've waited that long for that was worth it in the end. So
I would go as far to say, having like recently just become not a Disney adult, but like having gone to Disneyland more in the last 3 years than I have my entire life. That's once or twice a year, but like
whatever.
That ride is what you go to theme parks for. I think.
Yeah, it's what you go to Disney for, definitely. Like if you know, I think Universal in Florida anyway is catching up with the roller coasters they're building though.
Oh, that's cool. I got to check that out.
Have you seen the Velocicoaster?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, the Velocicoaster. Talk about rides that will kill people. That was a ride. Genuinely, it was so intense. I'm like, this is gonna kill someone. Like, this ride is so insane. It was great, but I'm like this is maddening that they let someone build a ride this intense. Like, in a good way. Like, if you like roller coasters.
Oh my god, you know what I just thought of? This is regardless of my complaints about this movie, I do love Alien, so I am going to end on a positive note. But like if you change like Tower of Terror to an Alien thing, right? Or if eventually they change Guardians of the Galaxy to an Alien thing because Guardians is now over, I probably don't want to be paying all that shit too. You could do that as the elevator sequence from like Aliens or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could totally do that.
That's why I was thinking that it would be an easy reef theme. That like they changed the Hollywood Hotel to a Weyland Yutani facility or something. Like
that's kind of fucking scary because Disney is, you know, the closest thing to that.
Can you imagine like you're in the park and now there's a giant Weyland Yutani symbol like hovering over everything?
Yeah, just slowly walking back out of the park. Like, I'll catch up with you guys later and never step foot in here.
But
again.
I love the Twilight Zone ride too much for me to be like replace it. You know, like I don't.
Maybe it'll be a Disneyland thing, not Disney World.
Well, Disney, I think they're going to stick with Guardians because Guardians is even though it's done, they just opened a new Guardians ride and they're still popular, and they that whole area was rethemed to Avengers stuff, so it's got to be. Whereas Hollywood Studio kind of doesn't have a consistent theme right now, so you just put an Alien ride, or they put it in Tomorrowland. I mean, the extraterrestrial building has been empty. They haven't put anything there. I think they put like a Wreck-It Ralph thing, but it wasn't like a real ride. Like, so there's a couple spots in Tomorrowland they could put it. If they wanted to put an Alien ride. I
just have this comment. Oh, here, go ahead.
Well, my fear is that they would do a Colonial Marines ride where like it's like a shooting ride, like the Men in Black ride.
Boo.
Yeah, like I think that's going to be the choice. Oh, they'll retheme Buzz Lightyear's Rescue Rangers to that, to Alien, which would be hysterical. But yeah, I think that I could see that happening. That would be a really bad choice.
Yeah.
I want to. I want it to come out after you. So
yeah, that would be great. It'd be great if they had some people in suits, just like kind of.
Well, the cool thing is
on the edges.
I don't know if you've like seen, but they've gotten really good at the tech that can walk around that doesn't need to be on a track or anything. So like if you built an actually functioning xenomorph that could like walk, like that would be kind of incredible. Like. If you want a showstopper, because like that's the cool thing about Rise of Resistance is that it's a trackless ride. Like there's no but like if you could have an actual robotic xenomorph that like climbs down and then walks at you, like that would be a show-stopping incredible sequence if they were able to do it. So
yeah. I was just going to complain about Avengers Land, but that does make me think about like, okay, well, first I'll complain about Avengers Land. It's the lamest part of the park. Nothing happens there. No one likes it. Even people that like the Marvel shit still, like, it's boring.
I heard Doctor Strange comes out and like does tricks.
Sure.
He's probably already fired. What am I talking about?
Yeah. It's boring. It's lame. But the Spider-Man flipping thing, I've seen that. That's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I mean, it looks
caught up in that.
looks cool. Because the Spider-Man ride is terrible. It's a like.
Yeah, I'm not getting on that.
Why?
Shit.
Why is a Spider-Man ride a shoot 'em up ride? And why is it the exact same shoot 'em up technology as Toy Story Midway Mania, which is a 15-minute walk from the Spider-Man ride? It's not even in the other Disney park in California. It's at the same park. Like, who is making decisions there? What are you doing? Just buy Universal Spider-Man ride. Like, just buy it from them, because that's a good Spider-Man ride. Like, you've done that, right?
Nope, never.
Oh, well, hurry before the rights expire or something.
All right.
I don't know how the California one is. It's based on the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s.
Oh, okay.
So it's all those voices, and it's got that style.
That theme is sick.
Yeah, the Florida one looks really cool. Like, it's literally like you walk into the Daily Bugle, and it looks like like a cartoon office. Like, it's really cool. And if you have the I believe if you have the Fast Pass, for you smart people out there, you get to go through. The Fast Pass takes you to the shorter line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that Fast Pass goes through the dark room where the pictures of Spider-Man are developed, and if you keep an eye out, you might notice that for some reason in the dark room there are handprints on the ceiling.
Oh,
see, that's kind of cute.
Cool.
See, that's why theme parks are kind of fun. Like, they do, like, when they let them do cute stuff like that, it's fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's weird when it gets weird when it's like, I love Disneyland so much I want to live there.
Yeah. Like, I'll be honest. Like, when I get to Disneyland, I'm like, maybe this is the happiest place on earth. Like, I get swept up in it. It's fun, you know. And then I go home and I'm like, yeah, Disney's an evil corporation and all that shit.
You actually made me realize why I like Disney World. I don't know if you remember what you said. Because I had just gotten back from a trip and I was kind of in that weird spot being like, man, like, I really enjoyed it, but like, I'm not a Disney person. Like, I don't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, you liked it because you've never lived in a walkable community with public transit. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Was that me? Oh,
yeah,
my God.
You said that to me. You said those exact words to me. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is why I like it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, It's not wrong. You were not wrong. But it was funny to just be like, man, why do I like this so much? And you're like, that's why. And it's like, oh yeah. Yeah, I would like to be able to walk to things. Doesn't even have to be a ride.
Let's do that instead of colonizing other planets with weird goop and such.
Yeah.
To end this on a positive note, and you can undercut this later if you want, but I just want to say, like, if this movie had settled on just being like a greatest hits, like, let's make this a theme park ride, which is when I do think it is most effective, I could at least like give it a pass. Like, its shortcomings I could live with. The characterizations being a little weak, I could live with. It's just like this fucking bane of my existence with the AI and home stuff. It's not ambitious, and that, to me, that's what I think I've come to love about Alien. I was wrong about it just needing to be a thrill ride. I was absolutely incorrect about that. That is not enough for me. Now that they got this out of their system, I will remain optimistic that you can't just do this again. I did say that before about the other franchise you referenced with Star Wars. I'm like, well, you can't just do Return of the Jedi again.
And then they did.
Like,
they did do exactly
and then they did.
That.
But I could have lived with the movie with. I mean, I'm gonna live with it regardless. It's just a movie. It's my least favorite in the franchise because of its lack of ambition and absolutely like critical, like, radioactive issues with not Ash in the movie. And that was kind of crazy how we were bringing up, like, they could have just done this, but they had to go back and talk to Ash. We did that like 3 times in this conversation.
Yeah.
And that just shows what a fatal flaw that decision was to have that character in the movie.
Yeah.
I did really have just a fucking blast watching it with a packed house that was super into it. Because at the end of the day, I do love this franchise a lot.
You realize when you
doesn't mean I'm going to turn a blind eye to it.
You realize when you keep making that argument about having a blast with the audience, that's the same argument people are making about Deadpool and Wolverine.
I know.
So,
I know.
Maybe,
I'm not
just
above it, is what I'm saying.
maybe just don't. Maybe just don't make that argument. Because, like, here's what you do. Here's the truth. Here's the humanist truth about your statement. You like people. You like being with people. We all do. We try to pretend we don't, because it's like we have to be a little vulnerable to admit we like being around other human beings, and that, like, even strangers can make it feel like life is worth living on this fucking awful planet sometimes. But that's what you like. You don't like the movie. You like people. If you saw Deadpool and Wolverine, you don't like Deadpool and Wolverine. You like people. That's good. Recognize it. It's just that's what we're fighting for out there these days, motherfuckers. Like, we're not fighting to get a better Alien sequel. So that happens good, but who gives a shit? And that's why
I like Andy the most.
And that's why I'm endorsing Harris Waltz or whatever the fuck. This is my stump speech. Actually, this is my stump speech. I have my list of things to do with the Alien franchise.
Oh, okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if you were gonna bring that up.
No.
Yeah, go for it.
I started writing and I started pitching Diego. I pitched Diego 2 possible sequels to Alien. I don't even know what they're sequels. I have paid no consideration when they would fit in the timeline, because I don't think that really matters. I'm guessing the second one I pitched you, which was trying to be more like in line with what you wanted to do with the franchise and actually kept the Prometheus stuff. I think that would probably be at the end of the timeline. Do you think? I think that sounds like something that would happen way later, right?
Yeah, like, because it is a little similar to an idea I pitched to you, and I'm a weirdo who's like, I do want to get to post-resurrection at some, if the franchise is to continue. And I've realized I don't actually need this to continue. I have my aliens.
Yeah.
But if it's going to, and I like it, it would be cool too. But yes, that comes way later, and it is much more standalone than these movies, I think, recently.
All right. So here's what I do, and this is something I would do if I was suddenly in a position where I'd be in charge of Star Wars. Which, these are things that will never happen. And this is also what I'm about to say is probably why. I would get a giant whiteboard, right? And I would start making lists of things. The first
Prometheus's.
No, I would not do that.
No, yeah, go ahead.
First thing on the list is stuff that can never happen in an Alien film. Now, Diego, you might be saying, what do you mean? We should be open to all ideas.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you would say, you fuck?
Yes, I would.
Well, what if we had an Alien movie with several non-diegetic song and dance numbers?
I would be fine with that.
Of course you would, you fuck. What if an Alien film with time travel?
No.
There you go.
No.
That would put that on the list. And then here's the one that's more specific to. I would also put those two with Star Wars as well.
Yes.
The one that is more explicit with the Alien franchise is nothing about Ripley's life pre-Alien.
Yes.
So that would be on that's something that never touch it. Never. These are just immediates, right? But like that would be one category is stuff, and I think you would probably be a better judge of like what could, if it happened in an Alien film, it fundamentally wouldn't be an Alien film, right?
Yeah.
What else do I have on the list? Lore is death. Lore is an abyss. Avoid massive lore dumps at all cost. Do not bother explaining things. Do not bother connecting things to previous films other than visually. It needs to be it needs to be explained within one sentence if you're going to explain it. That's it. You can't do more than that. No more lore. All right.
On that note, I just want to say I think that's going to start making a comeback so long as we can push against like producers and people that are like, but if people didn't watch the other ones, I'm not gonna be like specific, but there's something Gene and I have been working on, and like the one note is like do less in the dialogue. Like,
Mm.
just explain what we're gonna see. Say what
Yeah.
we're gonna see, or what the character's gonna see. The emotion from that is more important than any nebulous backstory.
Mhm.
And I do agree. I think that is the way to go with these movies. Because, like, as much as I love Prometheus and Covenant now, like, or I've always loved Covenant, but, like, I don't need more movies like that. I like them because they're Ridley Scott movies.
Yes.
I like that it's him doing these things. The lore itself in any narrative is not important.
Next thing on the list, nothing has to be don't feel obligated to put something in the movie, right? Like there's nothing that has to be in an Alien film, you know? Like we don't have to, like, just all you should do is take note of what from the previous film, if anything, needs to carry over, right? Like a character or a plot important device, right? Like that's about it. But don't feel obligated beyond that to put anything in these movies. Now, here's the most important thing, and this is what I would do. This is really what I would do if I was in charge of Star Wars, in any long-running franchise at this point, is make a list of things to put on the bench for being in too many of the movies. If it's appeared in 3 or more movies, we're putting it on the bench. I'm not saying it can never happen again, right? But we are putting it on the bench. We are not doing it in the next movie. And I don't know if you noticed, but xenomorphs, chest bursters, face huggers have appeared in some form in all of the Alien films. They've appeared in some form in all the Alien films. Dump them. Next movie can't have any of them.
All right, now it's time for the Neomorph to make a comeback.
No. Neomorph is just a fucking another name for one of those things. It's the same basic shit. Neomorph, you can't do it either. No. It's on the bench.
Okay.
Get over on the bench. If you did it in the if it hasn't been in 3 movies, but you did it in the last 2 movies, it also has to go on the bench. So at this point, that's like xenomorphs again. I think an evil android at this point has been in too many of them. And that's the one I question, because I'm like, androids, because there has been an android in all of them, but I can't decide if that is just a functioning part of the world or not. You know, like
I'll push back against that one. Mm. Like I don't think androids should go on the bench. Now, evil android.
Yeah.
You might have something there.
Yeah, so like I'm a little iffy on Android thing where it'd be like saying like you can't have space in an Alien film. Like that seems, like that seems. But I'm not just applying this to physical stuff. I'm applying this to like sequences. I'm applying this to like anything. So it's like the airlock being like the big one, right? Like
yes,
the airlock is we've done it too many times.
I mean, you were the first person I thought of when I saw this movie. I was like, oh, they're doing the 3rd act or the 4th act. And then I was like, well, he's not going to like this.
Yeah. And it's weird that it happened specifically in Covenant and this, where you thought the movie was over and then they still managed to have another ending and they still managed to get an airlock in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. You know?
Oh, you know what? I want to, since I'm there, the music cue when Rain survives at the end is really great. I think Benjamin Walsh's score is actually quite good in this. I think he came to fucking work, and good stuff. I would recommend listening to it.
I'll trust your word on that because I was tapped out by then.
Okay.
Yeah, like any sequences like that, there's been anything that we've just seen too many times has to get put on a bench, right? And I've been thinking about this with Star Wars too, of just being like X-wings, too many X-wings, no more X-wings. TIE fighters, too many TIE fighters, no more TIE fighters, right? Like Dark Side redeemed, see it too many times, get rid of it. Like you gotta come up with something else now. Like just think, and these are not things that have to go away forever. They just have to be put on the bench for a little bit. And my big one really is I don't want any xenomorphs, I don't want any chest bursters, I don't want any face huggers. I don't want people being impregnated by things. it's just happened too many times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you gotta start. They gotta start coming up with different things to do with these movies, and they haven't so far. You're the bigger Alien guy. I'm sure you notice more that repeats that I haven't,
Mm-hmm.
off the top of my head. So I think you would
Well,
be.
I will be honest. Romulus is the first time there's been an Alien movie where there's direct callback lines, and it's very clear that it just didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first one that leans into fan service. Fucking look, fuck Joss Whedon, okay? But like Joss Whedon, who is like kind of, who was like a geek icon, and like he did fan service at times, but it was like he tended to find a reason for it to be in the narrative. He was the guy who could do that, generally speaking, the fan service thing, without it being beating you over the head. Now, you might be annoyed at his dialogue and characterizations. That's totally fine. But he didn't even do that in Resurrection. The one, like, kind of quippy line is, like, when they're like, oh, you fought these things? How'd you live? Or, how'd you beat them? And she's like, I died. You know? And it's like, oh, I get it, because it's Ripley, but it's not Ripley. That's, like, the closest you get.
Yes, there is
no more of that. I don't need multiple instances of that to know that I don't want that again. The one thing you haven't mentioned is the Queen.
Uh-huh.
The Queen could physically pop up. Although, no, you xenomorphs, that does count, I guess.
Yeah, I would kind of lump that together with the xenomorph. Because the Alien Queen kind of just is a big xenomorph. Now, it would be interesting if you could find a way to have the Queen in the movie without any other xenomorphs, but...
Yeah.
You know, I mean, xenomorph, how many times has the Queen appeared? So Queen's appeared in Aliens and AVP.
And Resurrection.
And Resurrection. All right, so there's 3. Yeah, we did 3 times. No more Alien.
Okay, that is only if you count AVP.
I am counting AVP. I am counting AVP because there's another one I'm doing is just shooting guns at aliens. Like it's just boring. Like, and they've done it too many times now.
Well, you know, I thought it was going to be kind of interesting in Romulus. Sorry, I keep going back and forth on this, but like, there's a bit where it's like, okay, they don't have flamethrowers, but they sort of jerry rig like, the liquid nitrogen, whatever, for the cryopods.
That was actually a fun moment.
Yeah,
where it seemed like they might do something different, and they didn't.
Yeah, it's like they use it a little bit, and then they kind of stop, and then they use it again at the end, and they kind of stop. And I was like, I kind of would have liked that to have been, you know, around more. That's a fun little. It's a cute way of like reversing what you know, while also genuinely being different. You know, it's like it changes the game, but that's fine.
So I guess this is what I'm saying is just like get rid of that shit. No more black goo either, just for a little bit. Put that on the bench. I guess technically David could come back, but I will pull a gun on someone if they try to bring.
I'll do that. Oh, okay. Here's a question, because the offspring is what it's referred to canonically now. The new hybrid alien that popped in at the end, the baby.
Okay.
The Slender Man. Would you consider that like an engineer, because it clearly has like engineered DNA, like in the facial structure and stuff like that, and the height? So would the engineers be off the table?
I don't know, maybe not, but also I don't find the engineers very engaging, so like they might just be off the table for that reason.
Okay.
but hey, I think according to my rules, if you have an interesting story you think you can do with the engineers, then fucking go for it. Like I think based on my rules, they were twice in a row, but now there's kind of a bit of a breakup with Romulus, so you can do something there, unless there's some deleted scene they're gonna put in on the DVD. Or if there was some picture in the background we didn't notice.
Well, I mean, like the baby is like clearly like it's more engineer human than xenomorph.
It is, but it's still like it's more hybrid alien, which like I'm thinking even though it does look like an engineer, I'm not. It's different enough for me. But now that being said, if we do one more hybrid, then no more hybrid monsters. So, so there you go. Or you gotta get really creative with how you're doing the hybrid shit. And I think a lot of like the baggage I run into in terms of like the repeating plot elements would just go away with the removal of stuff like xenomorphs and chest bursters and face huggers. You know, like you take that stuff out and it immediately removes certain sequences from the movie, and those are all sequences that have repeated too many times, right? Like just it's all stuff we've seen a little too much. And hopefully That's what I would do, and obviously that will never happen because they got to put an alien on the poster, right? Like they got to put something on the
Well,
poster.
you know what they're gonna start doing after they do Aliens, Romulus?
Mm-hmm.
Um, they'll do like they'll kind of start doing it like what the Predator initially tried to do, the Shane Black one, before they got buyer's remorse and were like, we have to change this whole fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
That you're gonna do like The Hunt has evolved or something like that, and it'll be like, in space, no one can hear you, hybrid or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of a tagline, but they're gonna start like positioning that. They're gonna get comfortable with the xenomorph one more time, and then they're gonna start pushing it in like not radical direction because Disney doesn't let things be radical,
Yeah.
but like like the alien like evolution or evolutionary or something like that, or alien revelations, and they'll be like then they'll have like more hybrid stuff. I think
Do you
that's
think?
my theory. If they
Yeah.
get a third one,
Do you think they're gonna have good xenomorphs at some point?
I fucking hope not. Um,
I really think that the end result will be Chris Pratt riding a motorcycle next to good xenomorphs.
please don't do
Like
that.
like the equivalent of that. Like I don't see what you do if you keep him around any longer, right?
Hmm.
Like there's only so many times the alien can like stab people, right?
Yeah, I haven't thought this through, but like I think of
Mm,
like zombies. Like unless you're doing like Day of the Dead,
mm,
which is maybe the most tonally in line with the Alien franchise. So maybe I'm just fucking myself
mm.
over here by talking about this. But like unless you do some weird science shit like that, where it's like, oh, we're training it, you know. But you know what? They already did that in Resurrection,
Yeah.
and when the scientists are all like perving over the xenomorphs, and they all die horribly
Mm,
because they have like a weak spot for them. So I don't know. I think like it's already been established that you can't.
mm,
And like if you're right, and you very well may be right that that's going to be the end result of all this coming
mm,
back, that I think that is the nail in the coffin for the
mm,
franchise. A coffin that I did not believe was real until very recently, by the
mm.
way. So
Well, I'm sure Alien Earth will turn everything around.
oh no, that honestly, I think they're gonna, if they're not fucking careful and they don't cancel that shit after one season because it's probably super expensive.
Mm,
Um, I think that will be like Alien Overload, or people are like, we're tired of the Xenomorph again. I
Yeah.
genuinely believe that will kill it more than any criticism of Romulus,
Yeah.
frankly,
Well, I
because
think
it's
we're
been very well
lucky.
received otherwise.
I think we're lucky that like Noah Hawley kind of fancies himself an artist, you know. So I don't think
Hmm.
he's just going to do fan service, right? I'm sure that
Yeah.
series will try to fix the franchise. I think that'll be the big thing.
Hmm.
But then like I don't think it'll be enough to like get numbers, so it'll be canceled and then rightfully ignored. So
That would be nice.
that's my hope anyway.
Yeah.
What a
Because,
dump.
like, he's been able to keep Fargo going, but Fargo isn't, like, that expensive, you know?
Yeah,
It's like,
and it's Fargo. It's not Alien. Like it's a
yeah.
very different. Like no one's really noticing that he's just taking all the Coen brothers ideas from all their movies and putting them onto a TV show. Like no one's really noticing that, right?
Hmm.
That like the UFO that shows up in season 2 is literally something that happens in The Man Who Wasn't There, right? Uh,
Yeah.
no one seems to be picking up on that, but
What a great movie, The Man
yeah,
Who Wasn't There.
yeah, which I believe is one of the few. If you have the DVD, I believe it's one of the few movies the Coen Brothers actually do a commentary track on. If you are interested, um, it's one of those ones where that's the only time they got to work with James Gandolfini, which is a shame.
Yeah.
You wish he could have become like a big guy regular in their movies, uh, yelling. Gandolf- Gandolfini might actually work in an Alien film.
I didn't want to
Yeah,
do it because I always do this shit, but, like, I do have my barometer of quality where I'm like, could I see them in an Alien? They're a good actor. I
yeah,
can't see Johnny Depp in an Alien movie. I could see young Johnny Depp in an Alien movie.
yeah.
I can't see Johnny Depp of the last 20 years in an Alien movie.
I
So he's
could,
a bad actor now.
yeah, I could actually see young Johnny Depp as an android. Like he could probably actually do like an interesting android performance. He would go too big with it, but it depends on the role.
Yeah.
Depends on how that android was written. But yeah, but that's also again young Johnny Depp. Current Johnny Depp hasn't made a good movie in about a decade and a half.
You
Um,
could argue he's
but
done nothing good in a decade and a half.
um, I was gonna make a joke, but I literally can't think of anything he's like actually done creatively in the past few years. Like,
He gives a very committed performance in Rango, and I love Rango.
oh yeah, that was that again. That was like 15 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, Rango, 2011, man, Jesus.
Fucking hell.
Oh, he was in Sherlock Gnomes. What am I talking about?
I did not know that. Are you serious?
He's in Sherlock Gnomes, and he's like the last listed on the cast, which means it's like a weird cameo, likely. But,
okay.
you know, oh, Sherlock Gnomes.
Oh.
Oh,
guess.
No, he is Sherlock Gnomes.
What the fuck?
But he's third build.
That's bizarre.
Whatever. You know what? We do not need to unpack that, really. All right. Before we go, I want to talk to you about David a little bit.
Okay.
Because I've been thinking about him.
All right.
What was David trying to do
In Covenant?
in the movies?
Or just this in both? Well, in the first one, he learns the worst traits of humanity, and the second one, he's just trying to. No. Okay, we're not doing that.
I don't. What was he trying to do?
He has no. I could not give you one specific clear-cut goal that he was trying to accomplish in Prometheus. Okay. In Alien Covenant, he is trying to create life, but his version of life is something that just destroys, which is the xenomorph. I always thought that was pretty clear-cut. But you and other critics of that movie have made it clear that maybe it was not clear-cut enough.
Well, no, it's one of those where I'm like, well, all you guys talk about this movie as being like really deep. So there must be something more. And doesn't sound like there is. I
think there is. I think there's an interesting idea where there's. Well, here you go.
So he wants to make life in Covenant.
Yes. So there's a conversation in Prometheus he has with Logan Marshall Green's character. I have the problem with the newer movies too, where I struggle to remember the names apart from like Elizabeth Shaw and David.
You could make all of these names up and I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, he has a conversation when like they're getting drunk because they're like, we didn't find fucking shit. Half the crew is like stuck on the planet, whatever, right?
When he puts
the thing in the drink.
Yeah.
But in that conversation, like he's asking like, like what do you feel about like getting like being unable to find your creators, and Logan Marshall Green's like, we just made you because we could, and then David's like, well, how would you feel if you heard that from your creators? And like the actual like engineers of humanity in the canon like have a worse response in that they want to kill all humanity, but I think David takes that and Prometheus, I will give you this. Prometheus, the flaws of that movie are that the character stuff is absolutely weak, and
Diego,
there's no finite point of it.
Diego, if Flop Sweat was an explanation, it would be this right now. What are you saying to me?
Okay. Well, in Alien Covenant, I think that is sort of what Ridley Scott was more interested in with the David character than having him be a supporting role. He wants to explore the creation of life, but David only sees life as something that's like violent and destructive, right? He's not really seeing something that's like brought any good because of its existence.
Are not answering my question.
Well, I don't have like a specific like he wanted to accomplish this besides he wanted to create life. And his version of life is just destructive.
I saw what he made. I saw the movie.
Okay. Well, that's what he wanted to accomplish. What do you want?
Why did he do it?
He's just curious. He wants to know what it's like to create. He thinks he's above it.
Why?
I don't know. Like I don't have like a specific like moment I could like point to. I guess.
Feel like these are things that should have answers. You guys are gonna jerk David off so much. Speaking of jerking off, you guys need to be careful with all your alien posting because you can get banned for jerking off on Twitter that much.
Oh, boo, boo.
Stroking it that fucking hard. Like, I'm gonna be the brave one to say Alien 3 is good. Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was out there fucking alone with AVPR. Yeah, you fucks. And you don't see me like I'm really not even doing a victory lap over this. Like I'm just like cool, like fucking. Ugh. All right, but like let's get back to David.
Okay.
So who is David?
Like what are you asking specifically? Just like who what he wants, right? What he wants to accomplish?
Yeah.
Or are you asking for like an inciting incident for his character?
Let's all right, well, there are characters like Dr. Frankenstein, right? Who they want to create life because, beating death is a good thing, right? In his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I can beat death, that would be good. So it's not like that's not a complicated motivation, right? And we don't need to know, like, we don't need to know the type of person he is for that sort of thing to happen, right?
Right.
So why is David making life? Does that have an answer? Like, what in his mind? What does he think? Like what? Like when let's say David's Thanos, and Thanos' plan didn't make any sense. His motivation was bad. It was a dumb movie. But he was even like, look, when I'm done, I'm just gonna go on vacation. So, what would get David to go on vacation?
I don't think he can.
And why?
I think he doesn't recognize it as programming. Like he calls out that he thinks he has some semblance of free will, right? But in the opening scene of Alien Covenant, you open with like the Blade Runner shot and like the eye and stuff like that. The image on the outside of the room is like nature. It's like this green valley, right? Do you remember this at all or no? Because I'm sure it's been a while since you've seen it.
I remember this. For some odd reason, I've seen the beginning of Prometheus a lot. Like it's usually once they're at the
Covenant.
Covenant. Is that when or is this the opening of Covenant when he's with Waylon in the piano room?
Yes.
And it's like kind of a heavenly.
Michael Mann's favorite movie scene. It's not a joke. He talked very highly of it.
Good for him. But okay, yeah.
So I think that scene establishes that David, though he exists and like is technically alive, right? Because androids have some semblance of sentience in this universe, right? It's always debatable how much of that is like coding and how much of that is of their own volition, right? I think that's one of the more interesting concepts in the franchise. David will never fully be part of like the natural world, and when he starts questioning Wayland about it, Wayland gets like very defensive, and he makes him like bring him tea and stuff. And so I think David is upset that the person who created him feels that they can order him around, even though David will never die. David will never stop working, but all he knows is to work. And even though he doesn't have to serve, like Wayland specifically, that's how he starts out. And at some point, arguably Prometheus, he realizes he doesn't have to do that anymore, and he can start claiming his own agency over his own life. Except his version of agency is more violent than like Ripley's in the original series. It's more it's a bad thing that he gains like sentience and agency.
You could have stopped that sentence anywhere and it would have had the same value.
Okay, well,
but
I think that clears it up more.
No, I feel more confused. But all right, I'll latch onto the one thing. Okay, so let's say David can't stop working, right? Like, so he has to keep working, like that. Like he's programmed to keep going, right? Why is the thing he is doing what he has chosen to keep going for?
I think he wants to be better than humanity.
Like, Why?
because Will die and he doesn't. Like,
Who cares?
unless he's crushed by like rock or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think his ability to continue existing gives him a sense of superiority over a species that will cease to exist at some point.
Does he really feel superior?
I think he does.
It's a problem because Michael Fassbender's performance is so bad, but
Oh,
like
boo.
it's because it's just like so there's nothing there with the guy. Um, like he's a guy like David's like the type of guy that like you have a housewarming party and you didn't invite him, but he shows up, and you're like, oh fuck. And then he's like brought a gift, but it's like a weird gift that like you would have no use for. Like, and then you're like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Like, it's like cumbersome. It like takes you a minute to just put the goddamn thing away. And you're like, I don't even know. I'm never gonna have. And then it's like actually gonna cost me money to actually work the thing. Like, I have to actually buy additional things just to make the gift work. And then it's like he's around people, and then you're like, cover your drinks when you're around David. And
Oh
then,
my God.
and then you're like, why? It's like I don't know for sure. I just get a bad vibe from David. It's like, why do you still hang out with him? It's like, I could not answer you that question if you tried. For some reason, he still is in the orbit of my life, no matter what I do. I can't get rid of him. That's David's entire vibe. Um,
Well, then maybe that's
Um,
his vibe for you.
so
That's what he needs to be for the
here's
franchise.
here's
I don't believe that, by the way. I don't
here's-
get that, but
here's ultimately how I feel. Nothing you described sounded very engaging in terms of narrative, so it's not a wonder that even if I could assemble any of that into something coherent, that it's not the most engaging thing to watch play out on screen. It would help. It would help if they had an actor with any charisma whatsoever.
oh my
But,
God, is this just like your excuse to hate Michael Fassbender? Because I do get that as
well,
like a person.
look, I'm just gonna be honest. Michael Fassbender, he's worked in Inglorious Bastards, where he's essentially playing a parody of a British person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's worked in Alien Covenant. No, not Alien Covenant. What the fuck am I saying?
I was like, yes.
No, he works in The Counselor, but in The Counselor he's playing a moron. So I don't like him. I just
You
don't
could have
like.
just said that.
I don't like him, and it has nothing to do with anything else that might be going on with that guy. I just don't think. Also, I do kind of have a beef with actors who phone it in, and it's very clear he really didn't like being Magneto after a certain point, and a lot of people in those movies also feel like they don't want to be there, like Jennifer Lawrence, but she does her job at least.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just I think he lacks a certain factor to it, but I also think David's not a very well written character. Because my whole thing, I think you kind of have to be rooting for David to be on board with whatever he's doing in terms of like finding it engaging, right? Like I don't mean you have to be like everything he does is fine and cool. I mean like there's got to be a part
No,
of
no,
you.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
You know, he like it's like got to be like the late great Hannibal Lecter. Like it's Hannibal.
Where it's like you do want him to get at some goofball shit, even
Yeah.
though some of it is horrific.
And the other thing about Hannibal, and this is all versions of Hannibal, really. This is including like the thing, and this is someone described this, and this is a thing about like sociopaths, but I think it's in terms of like the engaging gay sociopath villain that I think needs to work. You have to imagine that if you saw that person at a party, you would want them to like you, right? That there's something about like Hannibal Lecter, you want Hannibal Lecter to like you, not because you don't know he's a killer. You just want that guy. You're like, this guy's smart. I want him to like me or whatever, right? And there's a certain magnetism that sociopaths have in certain instances like that. least that's what they say. I don't even know if that's really true.
It's
But
true in fiction.
yeah,
I
in
think.
fiction, it's definitely true, and I think that's why you have a character like Hannibal Lecter who is so engaging, and plenty of classic evil gays throughout cinema that are similarly engaging. And like David has none of that. Like David's like a really off-putting figure, and I don't think they make up for that off-puttingness in his actions or anything else that he's up to. Uh,
So in a way, your problem, apart from the Michael Fassbender of it all, is that David operates in one mode. I happen to enjoy watching that mode, and you don't. Right? Is that fair to say?
well, what mode are you saying he's operating in? Like, just
Just
I really struggle to even understand because he kind of just does things, and even with the motivation you've tried to give to him, which I can't feel it. It's still you are basically describing a man who just seems to do things, and he doesn't seem to take joy in it. He doesn't seem to take anger in it or frustration. Like he's just a cog, and that can be engaging, right?
mm,
Like a person doing something, but then his actions don't like it's hard to follow what his actual actions are outside of him. I'm not talking about motivation. I'm talking about the physical
mm-hmm,
consequences of his actions. So,
mm-hmm.
um, it's so I brush up against a lot of it's one of those things where I'm like, well, if this doesn't work about him, then this might, and then that doesn't work either. I'm like, well, if that one doesn't work, then this might, and that doesn't work either. And I just go in circles like that with David.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
I I don't know. It's just I think it's just something we're not gonna be able to see eye to eye on
I'm just
ever. Because I feel a lot of anger from the character. I feel frustration from the character
well,
that
he's got a
he both wants to like overcome human and like defeat humanity. That this is my reading of the character. I think he wants to be better than humanity, and to do that, he's going to prove he's better by wiping them out with his own species that he created. That being the xenomorph and all that shit, right?
mm,
I feel the sense of frustration that he also does want to understand humanity more, but
no,
only because he creates destruction with his species. He'll never truly understand that. He's missing the essential components. Like there's a line in Alien Covenant when Walter's like, "Oh yeah, the Davids were decommissioned," and David's like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, you scared people, you know." And I feel a lot of resentment coming from David, but I guess
no,
you do not feel that, or you don't feel it enough in consequence as like a character narrative,
yeah,
right?
no. He definitely does have a lot of like quiet resentment to everyone around him, right? Like there
Mm-hmm.
is that like quiet. It's not. I don't even know if it's a resentment, but it is a definitely like uh, it's almost like nerd anger. Like it's almost like I'm better than everyone, right? Like I get where you're coming from with that. Like in terms of how he engages with people. Where but he's not outright saying it. Like there's no megalomania with him, right? In a lot of those scenes. It's a lot of just like with Charlize Theron. Like Charlize Theron is trying to prove that she is better than David throughout it, and what annoys her most is that he doesn't seem to show anything. That she's like, I'm better. See, I can do all these fucking push-ups or whatever, and he's just still David. Like he's like, okay, I'll be doing my other thing, like, and but in that there is a quiet resentment in him. I just don't the leap from that to I'm gonna wipe out humanity and or even like he commits mass genocide against the engineers. Like that does happen. I just that is like it's such a leap to me that it's very much a like Magneto being like we're superior than humans, so let's kill them all, which is not the greatest motivation. Like Magneto eventually got a lot of pathos because he was like, he went through a lot and he's like experienced the worst of humanity and stuff like that. And his plans became a lot bigger than just wiping out humanity. Like
Mm-hmm.
it took him a minute, but
Yeah,
Dave,
yeah.
but David is kind of in that pocket of just like I'm angry, so why don't I kill everyone? And that's not the most engaging thing for me. Like it would be more interesting if David had more explicit like daddy issues almost. Like
Hmm.
with
I mean, those are
no,
definitely there. That's the
they
opening scene of Covenant.
they are there, but I want his actions to be more explicitly built around that, right? Like I don't feel like anything he does really ties into him getting one over on his father or his creator, right? Like um I was thinking about it, I go back to the Hammer Frankenstein movies because I really like them, but that first one, everything he's doing in that first one in Curse of Frankenstein is trying to get his partner back, right? Like everything is like, look at this. Now I got hands that work. Isn't that cool? And he's like, you've gone too far. And he's like, nah, man, wait till you see it. Like he's trying to win his lover back in Curse of Frankenstein to get into the subtext of it, you know? Like, and there's a part of it where like Waylon just kind of dies, so it'd be one thing if he was like around, if Fassbender was around being like, look at what I did, father. I did this. It's all for you, or not like that, but you know what I'm saying. Like if it was more specific, it's so broad beyond that. Like I almost wish David would maybe show a fucking emotion finally when his father, like he could maybe learn something when his father actually does die, even if he hated his father, um, even if he hated his creator. Like, what if he kills God at the start of Covenant, and so what if he was like, oh, you know what, killing God, it didn't actually help. Like whatever I'm trying to do, it didn't help, and
You know what I might be realizing, and this isn't your only takeaway from your dislike of David, but I do get the sense, because I know you love robots in movies, I do get the sense you want him to just be more likable also. And
no,
not that you want him to be a good guy, not a
yeah,
protagonist, or you be a protagonist and still be a villain, but you want him, you want that flair, like that likability flair. I mean, you said that you want him to, you want to be liked by him. You want the characters to like almost be friendly with him, and he just never has that essence
I
in
want
any of his appearances.
something in him I can latch on to, basically, because there's nothing there for me that I can even latch onto, even in terms of like an evil villain who just does nothing but awful things for a full movie, right? Like, I find Pinhead in the Hellraiser movies more relatable. Like, like I made the joke, but there is just a certain like lack of like I don't want to be around that guy type vibe to him that isn't made up for by his actions. Like there are plenty of characters I like watching in movies who I also know I would never want to be around. Um, and but David just it's like and I think there is a part like I get what you're saying with like yes, there's a part of me that wants to like him, but there's a part of me that wants to be able to root for what he is doing, not in a I want him to win, but in a I want to see what he does, right? Like because it would be interesting because movies are pretend time and it's interesting to see how a movie pretends, right? Like it's interesting to see and I just don't get that from David at all. Uh, it feels a little. He feels oddly rushed. I feel like both Prometheus and Covenant felt oddly rushed because they weren't sure if they were going to get sequels. Um, and isn't like
I
didn't
think you've cleared up some things for me.
it,
I think um the lack of like, because you're not even asking for like an achievable goal at the end of each movie. You just want to
yeah,
know like what direction he's headed in, and I
yeah,
think like allegedly holding off for a third prequel to answer that, I could see why that's a big hang up
yeah.
for you, and having that lack of direction, um it makes you feel unfulfilled by his character.
Well,
I see now.
it's
I think I
also
understand now.
why the ending of Covenant sits so poorly with me because I don't know what he actually wants to do. Right. All I
Hmm.
know is he wants to. And when I'm left with not like with when I'm left not physically able to understand what he's doing in the movie, I can only read that ending thematically, and I don't think I need to say it, but if we go by the themes of a franchise that is primarily about bodily violation, there's only one way to read the ending of Covenant. And it's a very disgusting note to end a movie on. And not in a fun the monster wins kind of way, right? Or not even in a I know some people go like the franchise is so mean spirited. Like that it like to me that really crosses a line of like it's it's beyond mean spirited to the point where I'm like, this is kind of I don't want to say morally like reprehensible because like it feels like I'm not trying to like charge anyone with it. It's still a movie at the end of the day, but it is a like, do they not know? You know, it's like when someone puts like a fucking an assault scene in a movie, and you get the sense the filmmakers don't realize they're filming an assault, right? Like, and that's grosser than watching a more straightforward one depicted. And that's kind of how I feel at the end of Covenant every time I watch it. So, yeah. And like I said, like if there's a third one that ties it all together, I'm still probably gonna be annoyed because I don't like movies that make you that play keep away that fucking long. But it might help things. It is also the thing of just like I always say this with, and it's harder because he's an android, right? Like so like this, but like I'm always like, what is? I always have that problem with Ethan Hunt where I can't understand what Ethan Hunt does when he's not on impossible missions, right? Like and like to me that like it leads to an emptiness in a character. They tried to give him a domestic life in the third one because that's J.J. Abrams' answer to everything, and it worked. It went so poorly they immediately jettisoned that shit. So, uh, but like because David's an android, obviously like he wouldn't be up to something that I could relate to, but I just can't. I just don't know what the guy does when he's not. And, you know, there's got to be a day. There's got to be a day for David when he's done enough work, right? It's like, well, I have to wait for this thing to actually grow before I can do anything else. What do I do now? And I don't. I can't picture what he does. He has the flute, right? But the flute had like a function. Like the flute, like literally opened up the star map or whatever. So it's less a like he's not actually interested in the flute. He's not actually interested in sucking dick. He's just kind of like, hey, isn't this weird? And I do kind like there is a little bit there that I don't think they follow through enough with, but I do kind of like the because like he's a very early model that there's something kind of incomplete about him, right?
Hmm.
That there's something sort of which can explain. I mean, that basically makes him uh, what's the fucking narrator's name in Lolita? Uh,
Um,
uh,
I gotta look this up. Hang on.
yeah, I can't remember. I'm not a giant Lolita fan, obviously, but uh,
It's not Humbert, right?
it's Humbert, but it's a pseudonym. Um,
Humbert.
yeah, uh, and yeah, and that's a book that's basically about what would it be like to be trapped in the brain of the worst person ever, right? Like, and but guess what, Lolita, really engaging novel, right? It's really fascinating of what it's like to be inside of a mind of someone that empty, and there's almost something there with David, and I think they just kind of missed with it, and because they missed, it just like it doesn't work. Like there's not enough there to for me to even admire the swing. Um, but it's also a little bit like Wheatley from Portal 2, where he was designed to be stupid, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and he kind of can't get over that. And so yeah, I think I'm just it's just because everyone just is always talking about David, and I'm really like I want it because it's something I feel like I should really like, and I just don't, and I do find that frustrating in a way that maybe David is frustrated with humanity, where he wants to like him but he can't.
You're sort of like the David of the Alien franchise.
Yeah, but you know what my move isn't to fucking kill everyone. Like it's I I'm asking questions. Which I feel like David would maybe be a little smarter to ask that stuff. It'd be interesting if he kept drawing the wrong conclusions. But yeah, I don't know. Also, not to be. I hate the gay read that people do on Alien Covenant.
Oh, I'll do the fingering.
Yeah, like it's a like. I don't want to be like that woman that got dunked on for Miami Vice, right? But it is a like.
Oh yeah.
It is a like. This is a straight people thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
This
But she was being an asshole.
She was being
yeah. That was a very innocuous tweet about a Twitter pal being I was doing a romantic thing with my partner because they asked.
Yeah, that was where it was like, yeah, I took my partner to see a movie. I'd be like, you fucking dumbass straights. Like,
yeah. Also, that person not straight. So
well, yeah,
good job.
Didn't those tweets like immediately pivot into like religious shit or something? It got weird. It was one of those where it got weird.
The person attacking. Brandon, you're not listening to this, but I'm sorry if you do, and I'm bringing this up over a month later. But like, that person was like, I'm doing a social experiment. It was that defense.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. See, now that's
I'm doing like a thesis on online reactions and the vitriol.
Okay. Here's my solution. Put that woman's personality into David. There's your movie.
Okay, yeah, sure. Like, I'll talk to John Logan.
It's like, David, why'd you do this? It's like, it was just a social experiment. I'm sorry you guys couldn't handle it. Like, he gets defensive about doing stuff he clearly has no idea what he's doing.
I mean, look, I'm not even joking. Maybe that is like how we're supposed to read David, and maybe we're both a little off base.
I'm not joking either.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we're like, he is just trying stuff because he has no attainable goal because his only purpose was to serve humanity, right? I'm not just pulling this stuff out of my ass. I think that is the basic text of all robots and android stuff.
And when David is made, he's not like he's like the first one, right? Like
he's a very early android at the very least,
which I also think is an important element of his character. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, there is that conversation I really love in Covenant, and then we can start wrapping up, where David and Walter, the other Michael Fassbender, two Michael Fassbenders. No wonder you hate Alien Covenant.
You know what? Though, I like Walter.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Well, there's that conversation where they're over Shaw's quote unquote grave, tombstone.
All right. We're not brushing over that real quick because I did not know that when you told me what happened to Shaw. That's another thing that is like, I can't even like talk about it. Like, that's awful.
Yeah, it's not great.
That's not like fun awful either. And again, I'm talking about someone who like, we love Hannibal, and Hannibal, like, one of our like named characters gets killed and like sliced into like 17 different pieces and then displayed. Like people we like get killed like that. And sorry, that's just that one.
I get it. Yeah.
It's like, and like, that's not even in the film really. Like, you have to kind of like look for that one, and then what in? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the conversation over that, when David's like, I loved her, of course, and Walter's like, we can't, and he's like, oh yeah, well, you lost your hand protecting Daniels. Like, what is that if not love? And Walter's like, duty. Like, he's not saying that like defensively. It's like, no, that's what I'm here for. That's what I was made for. And I don't know, I really love the conversation about like how much is the programming, how much isn't, and it's clearly like leftover Blade Runner idea sequels that Ridley Scott had too.
Yes, it is.
But I also
derogatorily.
But I also do like that Alien is a franchise where I can get that as well as like goopy monster stuff. And even though you do not think it's successful, I don't think you're saying these concepts are out of line or out of step with this series.
No,
right?
I just want them to be better. I just want them to do it better. Because I've seen, like, not to be, whatever. Like,
no. We both do it because this is the problem with Alien Romulus. It's like, no, we've seen these alien movies before. I
Yeah.
know how this is gonna go, so I'm not impressed. But
Yeah.
other people were impressed. So maybe that was that, because I didn't watch the Frankenstein Hammer stuff till after Covenant.
Mhm.
There's a very real chance where there's another world where I don't respond to it the way I have and continue to do so. I didn't love Prometheus when I first saw it. I loved Covenant day one. I went back to Prometheus and like appreciated it a lot more. You know, like it's not my least favorite in the franchise by any step of the
And I
imagination.
wouldn't be shocked if I respond slightly better to both of those post Romulus, because I do think Romulus underlined stuff that I was actually had some juice to it in Prometheus and Covenant, which were harder for me to see or at least acknowledge just because of my frustrations with those films, right? But now to see a
Mhm.
movie completely absent of those things, I think I would recognize them more in it. But yeah, I think it really is just I've watched too many monster movies, and I like this is just it's stuff I love, so it's not as revelatory. And I don't mean, I hope that doesn't come across as condescending when I say it, right? Like that.
Mhm.
I mean, like I think it's Frankenstein creates women is like he literally is like there's like debates about the human soul in that movie because he extracts the soul from a living person and puts two souls in one body. And what's fun, what I love, here's what I love though, is that like these, when it comes to something like Covenant Prometheus, these are ideas that have been rolling around in Ridley Scott's empty fucking head for years. And he's clearly thought about this stuff so much, and he's thought about it arguably a little too much, to the point to when he tries to put it out there, he can't be coherent with it, which I can at least relate to. Um, Whereas stuff like the Hammer Frankenstein films were just guys being like, "We got to shoot this movie in 3 weeks." Like, whatever, the script's not done, and they still managed to touch on all these really interesting ideas. Like, that's what I find so amusing about old horror movies. That no one involved was trying to light the world on fire, and that every now and then they accidentally achieve brilliance. Like, that's what I like. And so then to see someone work really hard and then fuck it up, a little frustrating is all. Um, don't
So how
give.
would you rank the Alien franchise?
All right, my ranking. I want to do
Yeah.
a quick ranking.
Yeah.
Are we doing AVP or
Yes, we are.
okay? If we're doing
Fuck it. You already
AVP,
you considered it already, so yeah.
all right. If we're doing AVP, I guess my ranking is Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, AVP, R, Prometheus, Resurrection, Covenant, Romulus, AVP.
Oh wow, you just like AVP that much. I did not know it was that bad.
AVP is just that's a like it's well there's nothing worse than boring, like
Mhm.
there's I have a big beef with Paul W. Sanderson. I know people keep trying to claim that guy as a like trash auteur, you know,
Mhm.
but to me it's a guy who took the shortest walk for, like, I was just dunking on fucking Ridley Scott for being like he's thought about this stuff too much, now he doesn't know how to articulate it well, right?
Mhm.
And it's Paul W. Anderson is someone who just hasn't, like, he's seen smarter people do these things and then just repeats it without understanding it, and then doesn't have anything to add to it, right? Like I mean, we make Event Horizon is just the Doom movie in space mixed with Alien, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just the plot of Doom, and it's bad. Like it's lazy. I don't like that kind of laziness.
Yeah.
Um,
Someone suggested, a friend of mine suggested, Fede Alvarez should have done a remake of Event Horizon instead. I I would like to see that. Not now, obviously,
yeah,
but
not now. That would have
I
been
think that would have fit more.
Event Horizon though is one of those, like, you kind of have to like really top down redo that premise because it's like it's such an untapped potential in terms of that movie. They never get to where they need to go with it.
Mhm.
What a lame ass movie. So yeah, Alien versus Predator is in that pocket for me of being a boring ass movie. So
Okay.
it's the crazier thing for me is that I am ranking Romulus below Covenant, which considering how awful Covenant makes me feel, I think it says a lot about how kind of just lame Romulus is. But what's your ranking?
Yeah, I'll start. I was gonna do least favorite to favorite, but I'll just start at the top two. Yeah, it's Alien. It's perfect, perfect organism. Alien 3, Aliens. There's been a lot of pushback about Aliens recently. And that movie, it's just fucking good. It just kicks ass. Like sometimes things just are. Sorry. Covenant, Prometheus, Resurrection. Probably right now Romulus and then AVPR.
Okay.
And then AVP. Yeah, like I tried to go back and like, maybe AVP is actually as fun as I remembered it being at one point, and it's just gotten so much worse in hindsight. That is very disappointing too.
Yeah,
frankly.
it sucks.
Yeah.
Whereas
AVPR, I'm like, you know what? If I could see this stuff better, there might actually, there might be something here.
Remember though, my argument was the fact that we couldn't see things is what was actually kind of cool.
I know. Well, because it was shot by Daniel Pearl, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy.
Yeah, I know.
He does a lot of
there was a lot
backlighting and silhouette and stuff.
A lot went wrong there. So
yeah. So we'll see. I think you'll still have a dark movie. It'll just be less I can't see and more this is a great silhouette.
I will be the decider when it happens. I will.
Yeah. I hope you love it, honestly.
I hope I love it too. I want to be happy, and I want to just be vindicated a little bit in terms of it really not even in terms of I know I rank it above Prometheus, which I get that's insane for people, but I want to just be vindicated that it is better than AVP. That's all that matters to me. I don't need to win the war, but I do need to win that battle. So what are those guys up? Whatever happened to those guys that directed it? I know I know your Skyline buddies took the Skyline shit, but
the Strauss brothers have just gone back to their VFX company, and they're kind of happy there, from what I understand. It sounds like they had a difficult time switching to directing, and people look back fondly well, the 20th Century Fox movies, as imperfect as they were, yada yada. I think people are right to be vindicated about certain movies being genuinely different and ambitious at one point. It's not like you just get talented guys and then the producers let you off the hook. Everything you hear about for example, all the cool Predator stuff in AVPR, they had to fight tooth and nail for. They were fighting up against producers that were does the Predator blood have to be green? Which is why is that even a question?
Yeah.
That's not what? So everything that is monumentally or tangentially cool in that movie, thank the directors and people like Liam O'Donnell.
It's a miracle anything that comes out of Hollywood works. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a miracle. What's Walter Hill doing in all this?
He wrote a version of Alien 5, or at least a treatment that clearly didn't get made, but I would like to see it. Not to be made, but I want to know what his take was.
But Walter Hill is also kind of Walter Hill, are you helping or hurting things here? Considering his name is on all of them except for Aliens, I think. I don't think his name is on Aliens, which is interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think he gets the most work in with Alien 3 because of that entire fucking thing.
Yeah.
But
who's the guy?
He's still producer on Romulus too.
Yeah. Who's the producer? Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. But I think it's David Giler. Is that who it is? No, not David Giler. One of the producers they interview in that documentary about the making of Alien 3, and he just comes across as kind of a huge tool. I can't remember where he's just
Well,
Like
because David Giler's the deep voice one.
Mhm.
Gordon Carroll is the guy with the glasses. And
I think I'm talking about Gordon Carroll. Like Gordon Carroll, where he's just kind of like every story is somehow like, yeah, we went through like 3 directors and they all had terrible ideas, and every director in the interview was like, yeah, we would settle on ideas and the producers kept trying to change them, and it's like, why did that happen with 7 directors? Like, Mr. Producer Man. So, yeah. Well, Gordon Carroll's dead, so we don't have to worry about him.
He seems like an unpleasant person. David Giler seems like a tough cookie too, who is also no longer with us. But at the very least, it's like, look at his producing credits versus Gordon Carroll's, and it's like, okay, this guy made movies at one point, not just name stuff for Alien.
Well, yeah, Gordon Carroll has his name on Cool Hand Luke and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, but there's massive gaps between those movies in terms of when he gets stuff made. So, and then once he's in the alien sphere, he just does alien movies. So
yeah, and to Walter Hill's credit, which is what we started this tangent on, like that man has written movies and he's still directing. It's just his stuff is, he has to go to independent funding now and shit, and it's
and everyone laughs at him, which because
he's
not talked about. He's not talked about the way a lot of the guys of his era are talked about, which is a little strange to me. Like, I don't know. Maybe I think there's something. No offense to Film Twitter, but I think there is something to, if a director has enough bad or forgettable movies, we dismiss them as being like an auteur. And it's like, he did The Warrior, The Driver, Streets of Fire, 48 Hours, Southern Comfort, which is one of my favorite movies, Extreme Prejudice. But like, he also did Brewster's Millions. Like, and we don't know how to square that. So.
Yeah. Well, did you ever see his recent movie, Dead for a Dollar?
No, I did not.
You might actually like it.
I should check it out then. Is that the one where like the poster came out and it had like spelling mistakes on it?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I think Dead for a Dollar, I think, had that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the Waltz one. I'd be down for it. I should check it out.
Yeah. Give it a shot. It's very cheap. It's very, very cheap.
I don't care. You know me. I don't care about any of that. I want movies to look cheaper, damn it.
I guess that's the last positive I'll end with on Romulus. It looks expensive. Good job on making everything look good.
Oh, what's that alien cartoon you logged?
That's a fan film. Someone worked in it for like 5 years, just independently because they love Alien. It's called Alien Monday. It's like 20 minutes. It's a little long. But it's very much like, here's an alien story of someone who's just clocking into work, has no idea what just happened when they woke up from cryo sleep and have to escape.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. It's like that person did that TIE Fighter animation a little while back.
They did?
Yeah, it was I remember that being kind of cool, but that was also in the before times. So, like, I don't know if anything from that era has aged well, you know? But, it's just so... Alien Romulus. It's in theaters. People seem to like it. It's gonna make money, I guess, unless it really drops off. Did Deadpool drop off at all?
I think it's stopped making money now, finally. But I'm gonna give that one a pass because people just love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Yeah, that's the thing. You're not gonna not make $1 billion with him coming back. Yeah, it tapped out at $1 billion at like 154 million. So it's like they won, but it's not like it's gonna get close to like Avengers Endgame or something.
Well,
like
I think they're happy with $1 billion. So
I'm sure they are because they haven't made that in a long time.
I'm just
for them.
Yeah. I'm just not. Everyone deserves better than the movies they're getting. Talk about like, although like I do know a lot of gay people that like the Deadpool stuff, but that does have like the vibe of like this is what straight people think gay people not are like, but what gay people enjoy. And it's a little confusing. Great times, Diego.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Furiosa, now on digital.
Oh yeah, that movie fucking bombed, you fucks.
I know.
You showed up for Romulus, but not that. Go fuck yourself.
People like scary movies.
I don't give a fuck what people like.
No, that one makes sense. I'll give him that.
I don't
Now, what they
give a
should have chosen to
fuck.
show up for is The First Omen. That's
Oh
what they
yeah.
should have
Oh, that
shown
was
up
my
for.
other point. Was that this is The First Omen is just this movie but good. So
Arkasha Stevenson, they should get in touch with you for Alien because you're fucking so good.
or
I'm fucking
or
blown away still.
or they should let her make a movie that she wants to make.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, obviously do
Yeah.
that if she prefers to do that. By all means, I support her. Whatever she wants to do. I don't know what it is, but I know she's got something lined up. So I'm very excited for whatever that is. Frankly, her next movie is my most anticipated movie of the year it comes out.
Give her Star Wars.
Okay, you just fucking said, or whatever she wants to do, but also Star Wars.
No, because I just think it would be funny if that's we suddenly get a Star Wars movie that looks like First Omen.
I'm sure she wouldn't make it look the same.
Why not? Why not?
I mean, like, you could make like a creepy planet that looks like that. There you go.
Why? Why not? Why can't
All right.
Why can't it look like First Omen?
The most repulsive image of the year in that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, it like ate aliens' lunch. Like,
A little bit.
I mean,
Yeah. Alien Romulus. No thumbs up here. I'm sorry. I'll give it. I'll give it a thumbs up for the exciting sequences that I described, and I like the cast and the director. Sorry, I didn't like your movie too much, but that's the podcast. We did it. I think that was a pretty productive discussion, despite our misgivings.
yeah, I think we understand each other better than we understand these fucking movies. But
Maybe. But on that note, Matt, thanks for joining me again. Where can people hear from you until the failed Fantasy Blockbusters returns a day after this is uploaded?
I'm talking up a storm over on Twitter about things. You can hear more of my thoughts about Romulus probably because someone will say something insane that will make me annoyed in a way that is irrational. Yeah, so I'm at EmperorOTN1 at twitter.com. X, whatever. Everything
No,
sucks.
it's Twitter. It's got to change back to Twitter at some point. There's no way. No way it stays as X.
When either Musk dies of a ketamine overdose or he finally has to sell the website in order to not get killed. But yeah, isn't it weird that like all the grifters are like grifting together now?
Yeah. Well, it's like when they run out of like grifting sources, they have to make it look like they have like an alliance or a coalition of some kind.
This is why it's getting so hard to do stuff like Whale and Yutani, because like the actual business leaders are so fucking dumb. Like it's Musk's all the way down. Like
yeah, my fucking world's so stupid.
everything's stupid, but maybe it'll work out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this movie, I'm gonna start saying that. If you don't like this movie, like and subscribe it anyways, because you might find something you do like. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Bye.
Oh wait, I forgot to tell you. Don't stop recording. Did you know that the K character, the little sister, the guy who got her pregnant is in the movie?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The character who's pregnant, the dad's in the movie.
Okay.
It's the guy with the bandana. That's her cousin.
Aren't they all dead? Who gives a shit?
I didn't know if that was gonna give you a reaction because that was like confirmed and I got like disgusted.
I was gonna make a joke.
I guess it doesn't matter.
I was gonna make a joke about like how distant a cousin we talking, but I didn't want to do that.
No. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's maybe there's a reason the guys have British accents and she doesn't. Maybe she's adopted or they're adopted. I don't know.
5 years from now, people will be talking about how that choice was actually a deep, meaningful part about the formation of the universe, or some nonsense.
No, some people are just saying it's like, oh, well, there's only there's probably like a small colony, so they only have so many options. One, that's like not specified, and two, it could have just not had that in the movie.
The colony didn't look very small.
No, it didn't. So
it looked almost like a planet-sized colony.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest argument I've ever heard.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, whatever.
Goodbye, everyone.
God bless America.
No.
Bye.